In Marvel, I practiced the method of swallowing stars and amazed the Avengers. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1 System allows marriage. 2008, Los Angeles. Evening. Batman shooting site. Click. Accompanied by the director's voice. Today's shooting work is completely over. A woman wearing a tights and a blindfold walked quickly to the outside of the shooting site. It was Annie who played Catwoman. After going out, Annie looked around, as if looking for something, until she saw a business car parked on the side of the road. Her eyes lit up. Entering the car, Anna's eyes fell on a young and handsome man in the back seat, and her tone was like a spoiled child. "Dear, you haven't come to see me for a long time. Annie, you also know that it is not an easy thing to keep the company running normally." As he said, Zuemo handed her the flowers in his hand. With the flowers in hand, all the resentment in Anna's heart disappeared instantly, with a sweet smile on her face, and she sat in Zuemo's arms. "Thank you. I like it very much, Zu." Emo hugged the other's slender waist. The front and back of the car were separated, and soundproof materials were laid, so the driver could not see the scene behind. As Zuemo reached out and pressed a button next to him, the car started slowly. "Oh, wait a minute, I haven't changed my clothes yet." Because she knew in advance that Zuemo was coming, Annie couldn't wait to get in the car after the shooting, and she was still wearing the Catwoman costume she wore during the shooting. "No, I want Catwoman." Host. Detected. System binding. A mechanical sound suddenly appeared in Zuemo's mind. Damn it, Zuemo, who had closed his eyes, suddenly opened his eyes and exclaimed point after hearing this. Annie looked up and looked at him with a puzzled look. "Sorry, you continue." After comforting the other party, Zuemo's face returned to normal, but the surprise in his eyes could not be hidden. After waiting for 20 years, the golden finger finally arrived. That's right, Zuemo traveled through time point to be precise. It was reincarnation point. He was born in a Chinese family in New York point. He thought he was reborn in the United States in the 1990s, until he saw Stark Industries on TV. He realized that he was reborn in the world of Marvel point. It is the world where villains emerge in an endless stream and want to destroy all mankind at any time. And these villains are stronger than each other. Not to mention the director of the Family Planning Commission, Thanos, who is deliberately trying to destroy half of the population in the universe, and the Celestials sleeping in the center of the earth. There are countless villains on Earth alone, who want to destroy all mankind at any time. Just like Magneto. This world not only has those superheroes, but also mutants, naturally including the Mutant Academy led by Professor X, and the Brotherhood established by Magneto. The only good news is, from the information collected over the years, this world belongs to the movie universe medium-sized film and television company point. However, they both died in a car accident 5 years ago point. After taking over the film and television company left by his parents, Zuemo relied on the memory of his previous life to shoot a series of film and television masterpieces and made a lot of money point. Then he invested the money point. Now he is already one of the richest people in America point. Resisting his excitement, he communicated with the system in his mind point. A few minutes later he understood point. Although the system is now bound, it has not been activated. If you want to activate it, you need to get married as soon as possible, and the stronger the potential or strength of the marriage partner, the better the novice reward after activation. Marry a strong woman. In an instant, names emerged in Zuemo's mind point. There are many strong women in the Marvel universe, but there are only a few in the first echelon point. In the end, there are only 4 names left in his mind point. Ancient One, Phoenix, Scarlet Witch, Captain Marvel. The strength of these 4 people is undoubtedly the strongest 4 people on Earth point. Since the rewards fluctuate, Zuemo naturally strives to get the highest level of rewards. The first is the Ancient One. As the supreme sorcerer, her strength is naturally unquestionable. If she hadn't died, Thanos would have no chance to snap his fingers, break his fingers. Unfortunately, not to mention the other party's age, Zuemo can't accept it. Even if he can accept it, he must agree to it. if he really dares to propose it in front of the Ancient One. Even with the Ancient One's self-restraint, he may not be able to help but destroy him humanely. This is directly past. Phoenix Girl, according to the original plotline, should have died in the hands of Wolverine at this time, but this is a fusion world. Zuemo can't be sure. But even if he didn't die, he couldn't choose this. After all, the other party has no way to control the energy in the body. Staying by her side is like holding a time bomb. Who knows if one day she loses control and he will be affected. Directly crushed into slag. Also pass. The rest are Wanda and Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel now doesn't know where in the universe she is acting as Superman. Pass. In the end, only Wanda was left to choose. The Scarlet Witch, whose chaos magic is fully awakened, is undoubtedly the ceiling of the Marvel world's combat power. Even before she became the Scarlet Witch, she could tear Thanos apart with her bare hands. If she had turned into a witch before Thanos arrived, I'm afraid Thanos would have turned into a gem delivery man, and he would have been offline after one order. At this point in time, Pietro and Wanda are still two ordinary people, living in the small country of Sokovia in Western Europe. It is very easy to control the other party with money power. This is undoubtedly the most suitable choice. After making the decision, Zuemo breathed a sigh of relief. He took the mobile phone next to him, found a number and dialed it. Boss, a woman's sweet voice came from the phone. Avril, let Soren and the others gather at the base tomorrow morning. Okay, boss. Secretary. Avril agreed, and then continued to speak. Boss, the current assets in America, except for the film and television companies and Stark Group's stocks, have basically been sold off, and the company you propose to acquire in China. I have sent the information about some large companies in China to your mailbox. You can take a look if you have time. Okay, got it, Zoo. Imo nodded and hung up the phone. In the Marvel world, without special abilities, staying in America is undoubtedly a stupid choice. After all, in this world, almost all major events have occurred here, especially New York, as the center of the universe, where events frequently occur. Of course, Zuemo wanted to leave a long time ago. It's a pity that his parents insisted on staying here before. I can't tell them that there will be an alien invasion here in a few years. I'm afraid that if they really say that, their first thought is not whether they agree or not, but to help they find a reliable mental hospital. And he can't abandon them. However, after the death of the two elders, Zuemo took advantage of the stable period of several years to make a lot of money. As Tony became Iron Man and the big event of the Marvel Universe officially kicked off, he officially started the plan to leave America. And if the safest place in the world is to beat China, except for the fact that Thanos snapped his fingers, which was impossible to avoid, hiding in China was still safe. After hanging up the phone, Zuemo threw the phone aside and fell into deep thought. After the system was activated, he also needed to reformulate his future plans. It was not until more than 20 minutes later that Zuemo, who was thinking, felt a numbness in his lower back. Chapter 2: Coercion and Inducement. 3 days later, in a manor on the Hudson River, a helicopter landed slowly. A moment later, a blindfolded figure was brought down from the helicopter by several female mercenaries holding guns. The leader, Soren, walked to Zuemo on the side. Boss, the person is back. Yeah. Zuemo nodded, and then led the way to the villa. A few minutes later, in a room in the villa, two female mercenaries took off the hood on Wanda's face. Wanda looked around with horror, and finally her eyes fell on Zuemo. Who are you? What are you going to do? Okay, you go down first. Without answering the other party in a hurry, Zuemo first ordered the two female mercenaries to leave, and then looked up and down at Wanda opposite. Wanda's appearance is 90% similar to Elizabeth Olsen seen in the movie in the previous life. The only difference is that the woman in front of her looks younger and more beautiful. After all, according to the time, Wanda is now just 18 years old. Wanda Maximoff was born in Sokovia, Western Europe. When she was 8 years old, her parents died in a terrorist attack, leaving only her brother and sister, and her brother Pietro Maximoff. Wanda's face changed when she heard Zuemo read out her resume. Then she pretended to be calm and asked, "What is your purpose in tying me up, Zuemo?" Closed the document in his hand and looked at the other party with a smile. "Miss, Wanda, I hope you understand that I sent someone to bring you here without any malice. No malice? Wanda showed a mocking smile on her face. Then she shook the rope that tied her tightly. Is this what you call no malice? With a sigh, Zuemo did not answer the question, but took out a dagger and stepped forward to cut the rope on Wanda's body. Wanda, whose ability has not awakened, is just an ordinary person. Zuemo is not worried that the other party will pose any threat to him. In fact, I brought you here just to make a deal with you. Deal? Wanda rubbed her sore arms and looked at Zuemo with a wary face. That's right, Zuemo nodded. I also know a little about your situation in Sokovia. You work in a cafe and Pietro delivers tequila in a pizza shop. The monthly living expenses of the two of you do not exceed 2,000 euros. In general, you don't seem to live very well. This doesn't seem to have anything to do with you, Wanda retorted. Zuemo glanced at her and continued. As for the content of our deal, it's very simple. You marry me, and your brother Pietro can get enough wealth for him to live a carefree life. Of course, you can refuse, but in that case, I can't guarantee the safety of both of you. Wanda's face changed when she heard Zuemo's words that were tantamount to threats. You are shameless. Seeing the other party's angry expression, Zuemo shrugged indifferently. Whatever you think, Zuemo still has some understanding of Wanda's character. If she is the only one left now, things will be more difficult. According to the other party's character, even if she dies, she may not agree to the conditions proposed by him. But unfortunately, she still has a relative named Pietro. Family members are her weakness. Of course, the method does seem a bit despicable, but he doesn't care. Activate the system first, Miss Wanda. I will give you 5 minutes to think about it. I hope you can think about it carefully. Your decision may change the lives of you two brothers and sisters. After that, Zuemo stopped talking and leaned back on the chair. For him, this is the most appropriate way. After all, he can't slowly cultivate feelings with the other party. Let's not talk about whether he has the time. Even if he does, who knows if he is the type that the other party likes. He is not Long Aocean, who has a halo of intelligence reduction. All women will throw themselves into his arms without hesitation after seeing him. If the other party doesn't like it, he can't keep wasting time with her. He doesn't have that time. Apart from anything else, there are only 10 years before Thanos snaps his fingers without understanding the function of the system. He is not sure whether it can be improved to a level sufficient to fight against the other party during this period. Naturally, the sooner it is activated, the better. Besides, this is not necessarily bad for Wanda. If you look at her original life trajectory, it is simply a template of a Star of Destiny. After feeling that the time is almost up, Zuemo sat up straight, staring at the other party with his eyes. How about it, Ms. Wanda? Please tell me your final choice. Wanda raised her head and looked at Zuemo opposite her angrily. Why does it have to be me? You don't need to know this. Zuemo didn't plan to tell anyone about the system. Only what no one knows can be called a secret. Hearing his answer, Wanda breathed a sigh of relief. I promise you, but you have to keep your promise and let Pete go. In the end, she had to succumb to the other party's power. Judging from what he just experienced, the other party should be a powerful person. As for her and Pietro, two orphans, how could they fight with each other? In today's society, having money really means doing whatever you want. If she resists, the final outcome is likely to be that Pietro and the two of them will disappear from this world inexplicably. If she was alone, she might choose to fight to the death, but with Pietro, she could only choose to surrender. Pietro is her only family now. You can rest assured that I always keep my word and I will never go back on what I promise. Seeing that the other party agreed, Zuemo quickly promised. That afternoon. Pietro was also brought here. In the living room of the villa, Pietro looked at Wanda, who was wearing a luxurious wedding dress, with a ghostly expression on his face. What for? You kidding me? He couldn't imagine that Wanda, who had never had any contact with men, suddenly told him that she wanted to get married, and the wedding was scheduled for tomorrow. What's even more exaggerated is that the other party is a rich man in the United States, more than 2,000 kilometers away from them. after entering the manor just now. If he hadn't been led by a servant, he might have gotten lost in this huge manor. He pinched his arm hard. After confirming that he was not dreaming, the expression on Petro's face became very wonderful. Wanda, who was depressed before and was trying on wedding dresses, had a smile on her face after seeing Peter. Because I haven't made a decision before, I'm just telling you now. This is the reason they had already thought of. She knew Petro's character very well. If he knew the truth, it would make things worse in the end, so it was better to hide it from him. But how do you two know each other when we are so far apart? Peter still felt a little unbelievable. Of course, Wanda, who had already thought of the reason, was just about to explain to the other party when Zuemo walked in from the door. Seeing Petro standing next to Wanda, a smile appeared on his face. Hello, you are Wanda's brother Pete. Who are you? I'm Wanda's boyfriend Zuemo. You can call me Zu. Looking at the tall, handsome, gentle Zuemo opposite him, Petro suddenly became a little embarrassed. Living at the bottom of society for so many years has made him a little overwhelmed. After a long time, he slowly raised his right hand. Hello. Half an hour later, the facts, before he forced Petro to accept this reality. When he heard Wanda telling him the news on the phone, he thought that Wanda must have been deceived by some bastard and wanted to come over as soon as possible to teach him a lesson. But now, he has long expelled this idea from his mind. Zuemo was opposite, not only young and handsome, but also looked like a rich man. No matter how you look at it, it doesn't look like there is a motive to deceive Wanda. Scammers only cheat money and sex. In terms of money, it is obviously impossible. If it was a lie, the other party wouldn't have to engage in such a big battle. Just now in the manor, he had seen the wedding scene being decorated. If you have this kind of money, you can find any kind of beautiful woman. Chapter 3 Reward. Star Tower. The next morning, the grand wedding was held in the manor. Wanda, wearing a white wedding dress, walked on the red carpet that was hundreds of meters long. Her mind went blank. Until this moment, she still felt like she was dreaming. Did you just get married to someone you met for less than 2 days? He turned around and glanced at Zuemo. I have to admit that, regardless of his character, he is indeed a suitable marriage partner. Young, handsome and rich. What a pity he is a scumbag. Wanda sighed. Now, she had no choice but to accept her fate. Since both parents have passed away, the whole process has been simplified a lot. After taking the oath and exchanging rings, the next step is the kiss. Looking at Zuemo, who was gradually approaching, Wanda's heartbeat rapidly accelerated, and she held the bouquet in her hands tightly. After Zuemo kissed briefly, the wedding process was officially completed. Hey, Zu, I was a little confused before. What made you eager to enter the tomb of love until I saw this beautiful lady next to you? It seems that your decision was not wrong. Tony escaped from the crowd with champagne in hand. No way. Some time ago, he said that classic sentence in public. I'm Iron Man. Since then, he has become the center of attention wherever he goes. As for why he appeared at Zuemo's wedding, when Tony announced the closure of the Stark Group's Weapons Research and Development Department, Zuemo took advantage of the low price to buy up the shares of the Stark Group. After Abadia, the number 2 men in the Stark Group, went to meet God, he once again acquired a large number of shares in Stark Industries from the other party's family. This also leads to he directly holds 30% of Stark Industries shares, becoming the second largest shareholder after Tony with 39%. Moreover, before they became shareholders of the Stark Group, the two of them seemed to have similar personalities. They were both keen on collecting stamps, and almost all the well-known models and celebrities in the United States were captured by the two of them. After becoming shareholders, the two hit it off and quickly became close friends. Wanda next to Zuemo showed a strange light in her eyes after seeing Tony. Noticed Wanda's gaze. Tony had a look of confusion on his face. I'm sorry, have we met? Zuemo also noticed Wanda's expression at this time, and his expression changed. Obviously, Wanda's parents were killed by weapons manufactured by the Stark Group. She would naturally not feel good about Tony, the current owner of the Stark Group. At that moment, he quickly stepped forward to hold her left hand and comforted her. Then he explained to Tony, of course not, believe me, she just remembered some bad memories. But Now is obviously not a good time to explain this. After a few words of prevarication, Zuemo quickly pulled Wanda and walked in another direction. He didn't want anything unexpected to happen before activating the system. Therefore, it is better to keep Wanda away from each other now. Wanda obeyed Zuemo's hand and left. She looked up at Zuemo's side face. It seems like you know each other very well. Well, you should know that I have a stake in Stark Industries. Of course, I acquired it after the other party closed its weapons department. Wanda nodded and said nothing more. Last night, of course, someone gave her a general introduction to Zuemo's information. She knew this very well. After the two left, Tony looked at his back in the distance and shrugged his shoulders. Bad memories? After muttering something, Tony quickly put the matter behind him, looked at a tall figure in the distance, and approached him with a confident expression. Hi, Jenna, Night Point Inn. The wedding room on the top floor of the Villa. Wanda sat on the $1 million mattress with a nervous look on her face. With a squeak sound, the door opened. Zuemo looked at Wanda, who was unconsciously rubbing her wedding dress with her hands. You seem nervous. Wanda had a panic look on her face. Don't worry, I'll be gentler. After comforting the other person, Zuemo kissed him directly. Along with a pool of blood on the sheets, the voice of the system sounded in his mind. Ding. The host is married. The devouring exchange system has been activated, and the devouring starry sky method has been obtained. The marriage partner binds Wanda and activates the passive, the eternal one and only. In an instant, memories poured into his mind. An hour later, Zuemo glanced at Wanda next to him, who had fallen asleep due to fatigue. Silently, he began to sort out the information in his mind. At this time, various cultivation methods and secret techniques from the devouring starry sky world have appeared in my mind. From gene energy cultivation method, psychic master basics to 9 tribulations secret code, broken East River, Liuanshu, all encompassing. He is naturally no stranger to the cultivation system in this world. The training levels start from the apprentice level, followed by planetary level, stellar level, cosmic level, not to mention how strong it is. The peak basic punching power of the apprentice level alone can be close to 1000 tons. A single strike can destroy a building dozens of stories high. Resisting his inner excitement, Zuemo communicated with the system in his mind. After a moment, he took a deep breath, and the corners of his mouth rose uncontrollably. Then he looked at the passive skill, Eternal Uniqueness. Wanda, who activated the system with the host, will be the only existence in the multiverse, and including the host, the life trajectory timeline of the two will be frozen, and no one can change it. Combined with the explanation of the system, Zuemo also understood the role of this skill. In short, this skill has two functions. First, his wife Wanda has become the only one in the universe. This made Zuemo very satisfied. The particularity of the Marvel world has led to countless multiverses in this world, and there are almost the same people in every universe, but their life trajectories are slightly different. Just like there is a Zuemo and Wanda in every multiverse. Zuemo doesn't care. Although Emo in other universes looks the same as him, they are not the same person after all. Wanda is different. This is his wife. If those Wandas in the multiverse marry and have children with others, it always feels like he has been cheated. This ability of the system can avoid this situation. Another effect of this passive ability is that the life trajectories of the two of them cannot be changed. No one can travel through time and space to reach their past timeline, change their life trajectories, or cause harm to them in the past. This also avoids the hidden danger that someone will travel through time and space to their weak period and directly kill them. It can be said that this passive ability has almost solved any of his worries. The function of the system is very simple. As long as you kill the villain, you can get points, and you can exchange various items in the system all with points. Excuse me, do you want to open the novice gift package? The voice of the system sounded in Zuemo's mind again. Open, Zu. Emo couldn't wait to say it silently. He didn't hesitate to threaten and lure, and married Wanda. Wasn't it just for this gift package? According to the potential of Wanda's chaos magic, the reward he got should be considered high level. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the Star Tower Enhanced. Chapter 4 Super Soldier Serum. Hearing the system's voice, Zuemo's expression was stunned at first, and then he was overjoyed. This is a famous treasure in that world, and it is also one of the strongest treasures of Luo Chengzu in the late stage. In front of Zuemo, a pocket-sized 9-story black tower instantly appeared. After the tower appeared, it flashed directly and disappeared into his brow. Information about the Star Tower instantly emerged in his mind. Star Tower, enhanced. It combines defense, soul defense, ceiling, attack and palace. The main body is 100 million light years high and can change size at will. It can be as large as tens of billions of light years or as small as dust particles. There are countless treasures inside, sealed stars. Each star is as big as a star, and the enemy is sealed in it and cannot break free. 100 million light years. If I remember correctly, the original height of the Star Tower was only 9 light years, and the sealed stars were only treasures, and now the Star Tower after the enhancement is not only larger in size, but the sealed stars inside have also been upgraded to treasures. Zuema guessed that the enhanced abilities should be more than that point. The level of the Star Tower may have surpassed the level of the God King level treasure point, however. The rest of the aspects need to be fully mastered before they can be understood. Unfortunately, Zuemo is still far from being able to drive it. Even the initial drive must reach the realm of the Realm Master. But now the Star Tower is not completely useless. You know, there are many mutants in this world who can read and modify other people's memories. As a treasure with soul defense function, there is a Star Tower guarding the Sea of Consciousness, and Zuemo will not have to worry about his memory being read and modified by those mutants in the future. In short, the Star Tower awarded can be regarded as a Star Tower Plus Pro Maximum Ultra Res version point. Just when Zuemo was shocked by this reward, the voice of the system sounded in his mind again. Ding. The system mall has been activated. Congratulations to the host for getting 1000 points. With a move in his mind, a redemption list that only he could see appeared in front of him. With a casual glance, Zuemo found that it was all encompassing. A-level flying knife, required points. 10 points. Unlimited bullet Barrett, required points. 500 points. Black God suit, required points. 60,000 points. Telepathy, mutant ability, required points. 80,000 points. Magnetic field control, mutant ability, required points. 80,000 points. Sky Shuttle, level 3 telekinetic weapon, required points. 1 million points. Splitting God weapon, one of the 9 divine weapons of the controller, required points. 50 million points. Zuemo continued to scroll down the list. The various treasures and abilities that appeared later made him even more jealous. Black Prison Tower, Colorful Aurora Lake, Chaos Golden Wings, Phoenix Power, Chaos Magic. However, the series of zeros after the price also made him calm down quickly. Moreover, he also found the Star Tower inside. Star Tower, unique, God King level weapon, required points. 100 trillion points. Seeing this huge number, Zuemo felt dizzy. Although he didn't know how many points he would get after killing the villain, it would be a difficult task to collect all the points. It seems that he really made a lot of money. Zuemo browsed the redemption list for more than half an hour. He was dazzled by the things in it. But he only had 1000 points given by the system, and most of the things could not be redeemed. System, only show the things I can redeem in the mall. With an order, the items in the mall were much less. After browsing again for a while, Zuemo's eyes fell on an item in the mall. Super Soldier Serum, the same modified version as Captain America, no chance of failure in use. After using it, the physical fitness will be improved to the human limit within a week. I want to practice the skills in my mind. The minimum requirement is to reach the level of a quasi warrior, that is, the punching force exceeds 900 kilograms and the speed reaches 25 meters/s. Unlike the body transformed by the RR virus in that world, in this world, it is nothing but a foolish dream to want to train to this level by oneself. And this Super Soldier Serum can help oneself reach this level directly. Congratulations host, get the Super Soldier Serum. Consume 1000 points. As the system's voice fell, a silver syringe appeared in Zuemo's hand. Looking at Wanda, who was still sleeping next to him, Zuemo got up and walked out of the bedroom. In the gym on the second floor of the villa. Zuemo sat cross-legged on the ground with his upper body naked. Take a deep breath and stick the syringe in his hand into his arm. As the liquid inside was injected into the body, Zuemo's muscles suddenly tightened and a burst of intense pain came from his body, but everything was within the tolerable range until more than half an hour later. As the pain gradually faded, Zuemo relaxed his clenched teeth and slowly opened his eyes, looking down at his naked upper body. A figure like a bodybuilder came into view. 8 abdominal muscles were neatly arranged on both sides of the abdomen. Coming to the mirror, looking at the perfect figure in the mirror, Zuemo couldn't believe it. In the past, although he often exercised, his figure could only be considered not thin. It was nothing compared to his streamlined muscles now, and compared to before, his skin became several shades whiter, and it seemed that even his height of about 1.8 meters had increased by several centimeters. He felt as if he had endless power. System. Open the attribute panel. Instantly, a light screen that only he could see appeared in front of him. He looked up. Name: Zuemo. Age: 20 years old. Strength: 600 kilograms. Speed: 20 meters/s. Ability: none. Points: 0. Looking at the series of values on the attribute panel, Zuemo was shocked. It really deserves to be called the Super Soldier Serum, and it has reached this level just after using it. You know, in order to increase safety, this improved serum does not exert its efficacy all at once. In addition to the explosive growth to a certain extent after the first injection, it will gradually enhance physical fitness in a gentle way over a week. I wonder what level I will reach in a week. Zuemo's eyes showed a trace of longing. However, after absorbing all the effects of the medicine, it will definitely be no problem to reach the level of a primary warrior at that time. He can start to practice genetic energy. Close the system panel. Zuemo got up and went to the bathroom of the gym. After the injection of the Super Soldier Serum, the huge pain made him sweat constantly, and he looked extremely embarrassed all over while washing. He thought, the way the system gets points is by killing villains. If this is the case, his previous plan to return to China is obviously not suitable. As for villains, the Free America has a richer output. In addition, he has already asked the system. These villains do not necessarily have to be killed by oneself. Indirectly, points will also be obtained. But the points obtained will be reduced. In this case, it is necessary for him to gather some people and establish a force. This can maximize the speed of obtaining points. He does have some loyal mercenaries, all of whom are retired soldiers from various special forces that he has gathered over the years in the mall. In addition to the Super Soldier Serum. There are many ways to improve people to the level of quasi warriors. The most point-saving way is to slowly improve the body's strength and speed by eating fierce beast meat. Fierce beast meat is very cheap, and 1 point can be exchanged for 30 kilograms. It is just right for these retired soldiers to take. However, he must think of a way to ensure that the other party will not betray him after improving his strength. Although these people are very loyal to him now, but after the strength is improved to a certain level, it is inevitable to have a different heart. In addition, Zuemo also saw an ability in the system mall: dimensional teleportation. You can open a portal to other universes and use it to travel through other universes. With this ability, he doesn't have to worry about the source of points in countless multiverses. The number of villains is almost endless. He can even establish forces in various universes to help him earn points. Unfortunately, it takes 100 million points to redeem this ability. It may not be easy to collect so many points. Chapter 5. Being stopped. After making the next plan, Zuemo closed his eyes. He chose from the vast number of exercises in his mind. He planned to choose a secret method to increase the amplitude of force. Fortunately, these exercises were like balls of light floating in the consciousness space. Only when Zuemo checked, he would receive the information of the exercises. Otherwise, these vast amounts of information would have already burst his mind. 10 minutes later, he selected a sword technique called Thunderblade. It is called a sword technique, but it is actually a force technique. Thunderblade is included in 9-layer Thunderblade. After being improved, it is divided into a total of 36 levels. Each time you practice a level, you can double your strength when you exert force point. After completing the practice, you can exert 36 times your own strength point. In other words, his current strength of 600 kilograms, after practicing the first level, can exert double strength, that is, 1200 kilograms. If all 36 levels are practiced, the force can reach 21,600 kilograms. This is the role of skills, and this skill is not limited to swordsmanship and attack point. No matter which part of the body exerts force, this skill can be used to increase it. At present, there is no sword, so Zuemo directly practiced with his hands turning into swords. This practice lasted a whole night. Too difficult. Looking at the ray of light in the sky outside the window, Zuemo couldn't help but sigh. After a night of practice, he still couldn't get started with the first level of Thunderblade, but he was not discouraged. After all, it was a secret method that could double his strength. If he could practice it in one night, he would be a little unbelievable. He stood up and moved his body. Perhaps because of the super soldier serum, although Zuemo didn't sleep all night, he still felt energetic. An hour later in the restaurant. The huge dining table was filled with various dishes. Wanda looked at the dozens of breakfasts on the table with a surprised face. Because I don't know your taste, I asked the kitchen to make some of each. Noticing the other party's expression, Zuemo put down the milk and explained. After Wanda heard this, a touch of emotion flashed in her eyes, but when she thought of the other party's madness last night and the faint pain from her body, this touch of emotion quickly disappeared. Hypocritical. He picked a plate of toast and fried eggs from the table with a wooden look and ate it silently. Zuemo wiped his hands with a napkin beside him. He took out a bank card from his pocket and handed it to the other party. There is $100 million in it. It is more appropriate for you to give it to Pete. After saying that, Zuemo turned and walked out. Wanda heard this number, and a trace of surprise flashed in her eyes. Such a large sum of money? She and Pete can only earn less than 2,000 euros a month. This money is almost equivalent to their 3,000 years of salary. Although she was unwilling to admit it in her heart, Wanda knew very well that, even if she was sold, she would not be worth so much money. The other party offered $100 million at once. What on earth was he after? Did he really like her? How could it be possible? She drove this thought out of her mind fiercely. She herself doesn't care about money, but Pete is different. With this money, he should be able to live his ideal life. Although Pietro is more than 10 minutes older than her, due to the difference between men and women. From childhood to adulthood, she has taken care of Pete like a sister. Usually, Pete almost obeys her. I think Pete will be so excited that he can't sleep after getting it. Thinking of this, her resentment of being forced to marry the other party unconsciously dissipated a little. After hesitating for a moment, she still said in a low voice, "Thank you." Zuemo, who was walking out of the door, paused when he heard the words, and then continued to walk out. It seems that Wanda really cares about her family. Zuemo came to this conclusion in his heart when he walked out of the door. In a remote town more than 100 kilometers away from New York, Zuemo drove and stopped in front of a 2-story villa. The mercenaries he recruited all had some criminal records, so Zuemo arranged them in this remote place. There are 9 people here in total. Usually, they are in the Golden Triangle. This time, they came to America because of Wanda's matter. In the backyard, Zuemo looked at the 9 people standing in a row in front of him, 7 men and 2 women. In the next period of time, you will be arranged to go to Hell's Kitchen and join various gangs. Your goal is to provoke struggles between various gangs. Hearing Zuemo's strange request, all 9 people showed puzzled expressions on their faces. However, due to good discipline, no one questioned it. Boss, the captain of the 9 of them, Soren, stood up. I don't know what level of struggle you are referring to. Zuemo cast an approving look at him. This is what I will say next. The more intense the struggle, the better, and it is best to fight to the death. Seeing the 9 people nodded, Zuemo led everyone to the back of his car and opened the trunk. The trunk was neatly filled with black suitcases. After a while, the suitcases were distributed to the 9 people. Here is your startup capital, $2 million per person. Remember, at all costs, at least 1/3 of the scum in Hell's Kitchen must die within a month. Understood. The 9 people nodded. Zuemo waved his hand. Okay, let's go. The gangs you want to join, and the fake identities are in your suitcases. Disappeared from sight. Zuemo sighed. There are still too many constraints in this world. You know, this world not only has the Avengers and X-Men, but also the Supreme Sorcerer Ancient One of Kamatage Point. If the matter is too big, it will easily attract their attention point otherwise. Just grow a few mushroom bombs in your daily life, and I think the points will definitely be indispensable point according to my current financial resources. It is not impossible to make a few mushroom bombs, but if I do so, I may expose myself to the eyes of various forces for the time being. I can only keep this idea in my heart. Point thinking of this, Zuemo looked at the dimension transmission in the mall again. Point with this ability, he can go to those worlds without high level combat power and make a living. Point thinking of this, Zuemo shook his head and drove away directly on a mountain road leading from the town to Manhattan. Point Zuemo was driving the car slowly. Point because he was going to meet those mercenaries. In order not to attract attention, he drove an ordinary Ford casually. The car just passed a dense forest. A police car rushed out of the dense forest and chased Zuemo's car. Finally, when Zuemo drove to a road on the edge of a cliff, the police car accelerated and suddenly intercepted in front of his car. Fortunately, his reaction was fast enough and he stepped on the brakes in time. Point despite this, the car tilted and almost hit the mountain wall on the side. Chapter 6 Don't come over here. After the police car stopped, the two police officers got out of the car. He walked to Zuemo's car window. Point seeing a Chinese man in the car, the two looked at each other, and a hint of arrogance appeared on the middle-aged police officer's face. Get off. A cold look flashed in Zuemo's eyes, but he glanced at the holsters hanging on their waists, and revealed a harmless smile. Sure, as if he was very satisfied with Zuemo's obedience, the middle-aged man took out the ticket from his chest pocket. The speed limit is 80. Do you know you are speeding? Zuemo's expression changed. Speed here in the United States is generally measured in miles. 80 miles is equivalent to 129 kilometers per hour. I'm driving 129 on this mountain road. Are you kidding me? Unless you don't want to die. The young man on the side noticed Zuemo's expression and had a proud smile on his face. Boy, if we say you are speeding, you are speeding. We have the final say on this. Certainly, Zuemo nodded indifferently. It's your right to issue a ticket. As he spoke, he stretched out his hand to signal the other party to hand over the ticket to him. There is no point in arguing with them here. The other party has clearly seen that they are of Chinese descent, and they can infer from the car that they are not rich. Naturally, they want to take this opportunity to extort money. If you want to take revenge on them, you will have plenty of options after you leave. Seeing that Zuemo was not angry, but asked for a ticket calmly, the middle-aged police officer showed a disappointed expression on his face. Zuemo did not argue. Instead, he happily accepted the ticket, which made the two police officers think that he was a soft specimen. After the two looked at each other, the young police officer spoke. Boy, things are not that simple. After saying that, he returned to the police car and got out of the police car. Then he returned to Zuemo and showed him the numbers above. See, clearly, you just exceeded 100 per hour. According to New York state law, you need to face 30 days in jail and a $600 fine. Of course, you can completely avoid these 30 days of imprisonment. Take into account what the other person does. Zuemo laughed out loud. Point as it's so blatant, but judging from the skillful process of the two, it is obvious that this is not the first time they have done this kind of thing. Point in this case, these two people should be considered villains. Thinking of this, he glanced back and forth on the road. Point it is now noon, and this trail is relatively remote, so few people usually come here, which means that you can only see a car occasionally on the road. Oh, so what do I need to do? He looked at the two police officers on the other side with a playful expression. When the middle-aged police officer saw Zuemo being so dishonest, he whispered a reminder. For only $2,000, how about pretending this never happened? In his opinion, the other party will definitely agree. After all, no one wants to go to jail and face someone who likes to pick up soap all day long. A month of imprisonment may result in a lifetime of consequences. The fact was exactly as he imagined. Zuemo took his wallet directly from the car, took out $2,000 and handed it to the other party. At this time, there was a huge roar from behind. The three of they looked back at the same time. The figure of a black pickup truck appeared in their sight. The pickup truck approached the location of the three people at an extremely fast speed and then passed by them like lightning. The clothes of the three people were blown by the airflow driven by the car as the deafening music in the car faded away. The speedometer in the hands of the young police officer burst. The three of them looked at the speedometer 103. Zuemo looked at the two police officers who were standing indifferently with a playful look on his face. Is this considered speeding and dangerous driving? The young police officer sneered and then pressed a button on the speedometer. The above value is cleared directly to 0. What did you say? I didn't see anything. The middle-aged police officer snatched the US dollars from his hand. Damn. You bastard. Be smart. I have the final say here. After saying that, the two laughed and walked towards the police car behind them. Zuemo saw the two people getting into the car, walked to the back of his car expresslessly, and opened the trunk. A huge black box lay flat inside. Opened the box and inside is a light sniper rifle. In this free country, firearms are essential self-defense items when traveling at home. Almost every citizen with a gun license will keep one in the car in case of emergency. Zuemo is no exception. Not just sniper rifles, he also had a handgun and a rifle in his vehicle. Zuemo quickly assembled the sniper rifle and glanced at the road. There was no sign of other vehicles in sight. He held the assembled sniper rifle and assumed a standard shooting posture. At this time, the police car had just driven less than 300 meters away. For him who has been practicing shooting all year round, this distance almost means he can shoot anywhere. Aiming at the young police officer driving through the rear glass, Zuemo decisively pulled the trigger in his hand. After a huge roar, a group of red and white flowers burst out of the police car in the distance, and the car instantly lost control. This road is located on a mountainside, with a mountain wall on one side and a cliff with a drop of 70 to 80 meters on the other side. After the car lost control, it first hit the mountain wall sideways, then rolled several times, and stopped dangerously on the edge of the cliff. At this time, nearly half of the car body was hanging on the edge of the cliff. It seemed that it could fall at any time. After Zuemo fired the gun, he did not pay attention to the situation over there, but quickly disassembled the sniper rifle, put it back into the box, sat back in the driver's seat, and slowly started the car. Half a minute later, the car slowly stopped next to the police car. The young police officer driving the police car was shot in the head by Zuemo, and naturally he was dead. Unexpectedly, the middle-aged police officer remained conscious. After the car's 720-degree rotation, and had already slowly climbed down from the car, he had already crawled to the middle of the road. The pistol that was originally hanging on his waist had also disappeared, and it was unknown where it was thrown. Although the other party escaped, his injuries were not light. Crawling less than 5 meters seemed to have exhausted the last bit of strength in his body. He was lying flat on the ground, breathing heavily with his eyes closed after escaping from danger, until he heard footsteps from the side. The aged man slowly opened his eyes and looked at Zuemo, who was smiling like a devil, with a look of horror on his face. Don't come over here. Chapter 7. Sorry, no parking allowed here. The man crawled away from Zuemo in fear. In his opinion, the man in front of him was simply a devil. Zuemo looked at the other person's frightened expression and showed a kind smile on his face. Officer, why do you look like this? I'm a good person. Look, if you lie in the middle of the road like this, it's easy to get into a traffic accident. If you encounter speeding vehicles, I'd better help you back to the car. As he said that, Zuemo stretched out his hand to pinch the other person's neck without saying anything, and lifted him up. Then he stuffed the other person back into the police car. For Zuemo, whose strength was close to 1 ton, this was not a difficult task. The middle-aged police officer seemed to realize what the other person wanted to do. No, please, let me go. I will return all the money to you. The man's hands trembled, and he took out the US dollars he had just extorted from Zuemo from his pocket. In the fear of death, the man's snot and tears all flowed out. With the blood on his face, Zuemo looked disgusted. Zuemo did not take the coin handed over by the other party, but took out a lighter and slowly lit the US dollar held in the other party's hand. Since You like US dollars so much, I will help you save it first. After saying something that the other party heard inexplicably, Zuemo helped the other party close the car door. Sorry, officer, parking is prohibited here. After saying that, Zuemo raised his right foot and kicked the car hard. The car, which was already in danger, tilted directly after being hit by this huge force and fell off the edge of the cliff. Boom. With a violent explosion from below, Zuemo slowly returned to his car. As soon as he started the car, 2 prompts came from his mind. Points plus 30. Points plus 40. Sure enough, his guess was not wrong. As long as you do bad things, you will be judged as a villain by the system. The points obtained from the 2 people are not the same, which is understandable. I think the system should determine the points obtained based on the other party's good and evil values in the gym of the villa. Zuemo punched the sandbag in front of him. There was a burst of sound. The sandbag exploded directly under his huge force. After a week, the super soldier serum had been completely absorbed by him. System, open the attribute panel. Instantly, a familiar screen appeared in front of him. Name, Zuemo. Age, 20 years old. Strength, 4620 kilograms. Speed, 68 m/s. Ability, none. Points, 512 points. 4.5 tons of strength. Although it is an improved super soldier serum, it only eliminates the danger of the serum, and the effect is almost the same as the original serum. In this way, Captain America's physical fitness should also be within this range. As for the points, Soren and his gang have long been in the gang of Hell's Kitchen. During this period, under their instigation, several large-scale bloody fights broke out. These points are contributed by the scum that were crushed in these bloody fights. Of course, it also includes the points gained by the 2 police officers killed by Zuemo. The accident of the 2 police officers did not cause much commotion under Zuemo's suppression. After all, the US dollars he gave to the politicians in New York were not to be wasted. Sitting cross-legged on the floor of the room, Zuemo found the genetic energy cultivation method in his mind and read it carefully. In fact, after his strength exceeded 900 kilograms, he could start to cultivate genetic energy. The reason why he did not practice immediately at that time was that he considered that the warrior would get a great improvement when he first practiced genetic energy, and the stronger the strength, the greater the improvement. However, in that world, without practicing genetic energy, through training, the strength can reach about 1 ton at most. It will become very difficult to improve further, and Zuemo directly improved his strength to the level of advanced warriors under the super warrior serum. I don't know how much this first practice will improve. At the apprentice level, there are 3 stages in total. Warrior, General and God of War. Each stage is divided into primary, intermediate and advanced. From the primary fighter's fist force reaching 900 kilograms to the intermediate fighter's fist force reaching 2000 kilograms, the fist force will double for each level. The standard for advanced fighters is that the fist force exceeds 4000 kilograms and the speed exceeds 60 m/s. After a moment, Zuemo let out a long breath. He had already memorized the contents of the secret book. The essence of genetic energy cultivation is to absorb the free energy in the universe to strengthen oneself. And the first step of cultivation is to feel this energy first. According to the method recorded in it, he posed with 5 hearts facing the sky and slowly closed his eyes. He tried to sense it. As time went by, he seemed to be pressed the pause button and did not move. For the first half an hour, Zuemo did not feel anything. But he was not in a hurry. According to the records in the exercises, it is very difficult for beginners to feel the energy of the universe, and many people spend a month for this thanks to his calm state of mind. It wasn't until an hour later that he entered a wonderful state in which he could feel a special energy in the air. Feel it. Zuemo felt excited. This must be the cosmic energy recorded in the secret book. Pity. In his excitement, he instantly withdrew from that wonderful feeling. But he was not discouraged. After the first time, the rest was easy. Gathering his mind and recalling the previous state, he closed his eyes again. With a high degree of concentration, he entered that state again. After a while, feeling the energy everywhere around him, he recalled what was recorded in the technique. The next step is to guide this energy into your body. Thinking of this, his heart moved. The energy around his body seemed to be attracted by his body, slowly gathering towards his body and entering his body. And the influx is coming faster and faster after the energy enters the body. It is dispersed towards various parts and is absorbed by the hungry cells in the body. It's as if a long drought brings rain. There was a warm feeling in my body. This feeling of comfort almost made Zuemo fall asleep. Just when he was immersed in this state, he was in the corridor outside the gym. A figure walked over quickly. It was Wanda, who had just married Zuemo. At this time, her face was full of panic. But after arriving outside the gym, Wanda looked at the door in front of her and became entangled. Zuemo had previously ordered that no one would be allowed to disturb him after he entered. After Wanda hesitated for a moment, she still didn't knock on the door. Instead, he waited anxiously. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8 Junior General. 2 hours later, Zuemo opened his eyes and slowly stood up from the ground. Along with his movement, there was a crackling sound all over his body. The transparent panel appeared in front of him again. Name: Zuemo. Age: 20 years old. Strength: 10,360 kilograms. Speed: 96 meters/s. Ability: none. Points: 512 points. Looking at the columns of strength and speed, Zuemo had a look of shock on his face. The first time I practiced, my strength actually more than doubled. The power reaches 10 tons. This has reached the standard of a junior warrior. Not only the strength and speed, but also the body is comprehensively improved. Even the perception ability has been improved several times. The flow of air around him, as well as all kinds of small sounds, are all within his perception. The sound of the hands of the clock on the wall moving was like a bell, resounding in his ears at this moment. His eyes moved. Turning to look towards the door. There's someone outside the door. Turn around and come to the door. Opening the door. Looking at Wanda, who was standing outside the door and had been waiting for more than 2 hours. Her face turned a little pale. Zuemo had a look of doubt on his face. Why are you here? Seeing Zuemo, Wanda hurriedly walked up, grabbed Zuemo's arm with both hands, and her eyes were instantly covered with mist. Something happened to Pete. Hell's Kitchen. In a private building. In a dark room. Peter sat on a chair with a bruised face, and her hands and feet were all tied up at this time. Boss, this is the person I'm talking about. Opposite Peter, or thin black, the man said with a flattering face to a figure sitting in front of the window. The bald man sitting facing the window moved his body after hearing this and stood up from his seat. It was only then that Peter discovered that the man was nearly 2 meters tall and his body was a bit too strong. The man looked at Peter, who was tied to the chair. Have you checked your identity? Boss, we have checked. This person just came from Western Europe some time ago. It seems that her sister got a lot of money from marrying a rich man. The thin black man on the side quickly stepped forward and explained. As he spoke, he handed a report in his hand to the other part. His hand. The tall, bald man looked at the report in his hand seriously. There was a look of shock on his face for a moment. $100 million. That's right, boss. With this money we have all the money we need to hand over this year. After hearing what his subordinate said, Fisk, that is, Kingpin, looked at him appreciatively. Well done. After praising his men, Kingpin came to Pietro. Sir, we are just asking for money. You don't want people to die before the money is spent, right? Just kill me. If you want money, it's impossible. After understanding the situation, Pietro showed an expression like a dead pig that is not afraid of boiling water. According to his character, he had no intention of accepting the money Wanda gave him. But then I thought that rich people like Zuemo rarely stay the same. If Wanda and the two get divorced one day, this can be regarded as leaving a way out for Wanda. From beginning to end, he never touched a penny of the money. In the Manivela. Zuemo and Wanda were sitting in the living room. Is it possible that the other party went somewhere without signal? No, it's impossible. Wanda was anxious, and her voice was trembling. Growing up, Pete would tell me in advance whenever he had to leave for something. This would never happen. He will be fine, right? Looking at Wanda's expectant eyes, Zuemo could only say something comforting. Don't worry, I have sent people to check, and there will be news tomorrow morning at the latest. But obviously, his comfort had no effect. Wanda's mood didn't get much relief. At this time, Zuemo's cell phone rang point after the call was connected. Secretary Avril's voice came from inside. Boss, there's news. Half an hour later a car was heading in the direction of Clinton District. Why don't we call the police? In the car, Wanda asked anxiously. Do you think Pete would still be alive if he called the police? Zuemo asked rhetorically. According to the gang's usual style, if the New York police intervened, Pietro would most likely not survive. What's more, the other party is Jinbin, who has reached the limit of human beings. He didn't believe the police had the ability to save Pietro from the other side. The car stopped 2 streets away from the Mayfair stronghold he found. Wait for me in the car, Zuemo gave Wanda a reassuring look and walked out of the car. Wanda's eyes turned red after hearing Zuemo's words. In the past, they had to rely on themselves for whatever problems they encountered. At this moment, she even felt that marrying the other person was not a bad thing. Looking at Zuemo's back, she said with a worried look, careful. She knew very well that following her would have no other effect than holding him back. Zuemo heard this, but did not turn around and stop, but waved back. Standing at the door, he reached out and touched a bracelet on his wrist. He dared to save people by himself, so he was sure that he could escape unscathed. Now with his strength as a junior warrior, the threat of ordinary firearms to him is very small. With his current nerve reaction speed, it is not difficult to dodge bullets. The only thing to worry about is those light energy weapons. After all, this world has endless black technology, and it is not surprising to see anything that crosses the era. However, this bracelet on his wrist is prepared for this. It consumes 200 points. This bracelet can generate an energy shield autonomously when attacked. According to the system, it can last for 2 seconds even in a nuclear explosion. The only pity is that this thing is a disposable consumable. Soon, Zuemo came to a building with more than 10 floors. The power of the Mayfair is now limited to Hell's Kitchen and has not yet developed to the point of ruling the entire United States. The headquarters is just this low building in front of him. Zuemo glanced at the balcony on the 2nd floor, jumped lightly, grabbed the windowsill, and turned over to enter the room. Oh my god, fuck. As soon as he got to the balcony, Zuemo looked at the 7 or 8 figures entangled in the room. If you open the silver party without me, you will all die. The glass door of the balcony opened, and his figure flashed several times in the room in an instant. Points. Plus 50. Points. Plus 60. After dealing with several gang members in the room, Zuemo opened the door and walked upstairs with his reaction and speed. Those gang members would be dealt with by him before they could even speak after seeing him. Chapter 9 Hell's Kitchen. Kingpin. Zuemo's actions went very smoothly. He was not discovered until he reached the 6th floor to be precise. All those who discovered him had been dealt with by him. At this time, Zuemo entered the 7th floor from the mouth of the last gang member he met. He learned that those kidnapped by the Black Hand gang were locked up on this floor. So after entering this floor, Zuemo began to check one room after another. Knocked out all those who were not Pietro. There was no other waypoint. If he let the other party run out, I'm afraid that within 2 minutes, his whereabouts would be exposed. After opening another room, Zuemo immediately saw a woman with short hair and tights riding a zipline and sliding in from the window of the room. After the woman landed, she rolled cleanly and stood up. She looked into Zuemo's eyes, who had just opened the door. When Zuemo saw the other party's face clearly, he was stunned. Black Widow? After seeing Zuemo, Natasha rushed towards him without stopping. She obviously thought Zuemo was a member of the Mayfair. Before Zuemo could speak, a long leg kicked him in the face. He directly stretched out his hand to block the other's leg and then exerted a little force. Natasha's body retreated under the huge force. Fearing that it would alarm the gangsters in the building. Zuemo walked into the room and closed the door. At this time, Natasha rushed up again. With the lesson just now, she realized that the person in front of her was amazingly powerful. She had no way to stop him. There were already 2 more black sticks in her hands. What a pity. Zuemo, who reached the level of a general, had too fast nerve reaction speed and movements. Before she could react, she was thrown onto the bed in the room by Zuemo. Don't fight. I'm not a member of the gang. I sneaked in like you before. The other party stood up from the bed. Zuemo hurriedly explained. Natasha, who jumped up from the bed, put away the 2 sticks in her hands. After hearing this, she was just wondering. The other party did not yell after seeing her, but closed the door instead. At first, she thought that the other party was confident that he could deal with her, but now she understood. Who are you, and what are you doing here? After confirming that the other party was not a gang member, Natasha looked at him with a puzzled look. My friend was kidnapped by them, and I came to save him. Zuemo did not hide it. Although shield is not a good thing, Natasha has a strong sense of justice. In this case, the other party is likely to become a helper rather than an enemy. It seems that the information I got is not wrong. Natasha took out an ID. My name is Natasha. I'm affiliated with the FBI, and I'm here to investigate the kidnapping and extortion of the Mafia. Zuemo. After introducing himself, Zuemo turned and walked outside. I advise you to leave quickly. You can deal with the people in here. Before leaving, Zuemo still advised the other party. Although Natasha's fighting skills are extremely strong, she is not at an advantage when she encounters Kingpin, whose physical fitness has reached the limit of human beings. It's none of your business. After Natasha stubbornly refuted, she followed Zuemo out of the room. There are not many rooms on this floor. Soon, Zuemo found Pietro in a room in the corner. Natasha didn't know where she ran to. At this time, Pietro's hands and feet were tied up, and his face was bruised. Obviously, he suffered a lot because he refused to hand over the money. Seeing Zuemo coming in from the door, Pietro showed a surprised look on his face. Why are you here? Of course I'm here to save you. Zuemo stepped forward and untied the rope on him. Just when he wanted to take the other party away, his face was stunned. Wait, thanks to his strong physical fitness, the movement outside the door was clearly transmitted to his ears in the corridor outside. A group of figures rushed out of the stairs with guns. Soon the door was surrounded. The door was kicked open from outside. Then the gang members who were preparing outside the door fired into the room without hesitation. In an instant, the whole room was shrouded in a layer of smoke. Just as these people were changing magazines, a figure suddenly rushed out of the smoke in the room. The figure flashed a few times in the corridor like a residual image. After stopping, the gang members holding guns twisted their heads into an incredible angle and slowly fell to the ground. Pietro, who rushed out after Zuemo, happened to see this scene. At first, a look of shock appeared on his face. Then he came up excitedly. Wow, it's so cool. Is this the legendary Kung Fu? Stop talking nonsense. Follow me quickly. Zuemo waved his hand and took him downstairs. Pietro is just an ordinary person now, and any stray bullet may take his life, so Zuemo still plans to send him away first. The two walked downstairs. As soon as they walked out of the building, they saw a sturdy bald middle-aged man waiting outside the door. Not bad. The man clapped his hands and then took off his suit. You are very good at fighting out these men of mine. However, if you want to take someone away, you have to ask me if I agree. Zuemo looked at the other party up and down. From the opponent's iconic huge size, he could also guess that the opponent should be the underground overlord of Hell's Kitchen. Kingpin, leave first and leave this person to me. Tell Pietro the location of Wanda's vehicle. Pietro hesitated for a moment, then nodded and ran towards the street, where the car was. Judging from the speed with which Zuemo had just dealt with the gunman, it was obvious that Zuemo was not an ordinary person. He knew very well that with Zuemo's speed, if he didn't take care of himself, no one would be able to keep him, and staying here would only be a drag on the other party. No one can leave without my permission. When Kingpin saw Pietro, who was about to leave, a cruel smile appeared on his face. Then he flashed and rushed towards Pietro. Although he looks very fat, his movements are extremely fast. However, compared to Zuemo, his speed was still far behind. As soon as he moved, Zuemo was already in front of him. Your opponent is me. After saying that, Zuemo flew up with a kick and exploded with power. kicking the opponent directly into the opposite building. Jinping's huge size directly opened a large hole with a diameter of 2 meters in the wall. Looking inside through the hole, there appears to be a bedroom inside. On the bed in the bedroom, a man and a woman were entangled together, not caring about getting dressed, and fled out of the hole in fear. Pietro, who had just ran a few meters away, heard the sound, and looked back. Looking at the big hole in the wall, he muttered with a dull look on his face, "Walter, is this guy Zoo a Superman who wears underwear outside?" Chapter 10 Rampage. Let's go. Seeing Pietro frozen on the spot, Zuemo opened his mouth to remind him. He wasn't sure whether such a bloke could kill the opponent. If he didn't leave, he would be easily affected by the next battle between the two. Oh, good. After receiving the reminder, Pietro no longer hesitated and disappeared from the spot. In the building, Jinbin coughed out a large mouthful of blood. There was a look of horror on the blood-stained face. The blow just now almost broke the ribs in his chest. But even if it wasn't broken, there should be cracks on it. The internal organs seemed to have been damaged to a certain extent under the tremendous force. This was the second time he had encountered such a crushing situation besides the mutant monster. Kingpin took a deep breath and struggled to use his arm to withdraw a small injection from the cuff. This is a potion developed in his secret laboratory, which can completely stimulate the body's potential and increase physical fitness by 5 to 6 times. However, the current technology is not perfect, and after the effect of the drug wears off, it will cause irreversible damage to the body. I'm afraid that even if I survive, I'll have to spend the rest of my life in a wheelchair. It was originally the trump card he planned to use to resist the mutant, but now he had to use it. Otherwise, I might not even be able to survive tonight. Thinking of this, he didn't hesitate, and directly inserted the injection into the root of his thigh. Outside the building, Zuemo saw that there was no movement inside. Now he walked towards the inside. Judging from the situation of the fight just now, the opponent's strength does not exceed 2 tons, but being able to train to this level with ordinary people is already considered a gift. Although the other party was far behind him, Zuemo did not take it lightly. He has no intention of letting the other party go. Entering the room, Zuemo immediately saw Jinbing buried beneath the debris. At that moment, Zuemo stepped forward and kicked him hard, intending to finish him off here. Just as he was about to kick the opponent with his right foot, a trace of blood red appeared on the surface of Jinbing's skin buried underneath, and then Jinbing's body suddenly jumped up from the ground, dodged Zuemo's kick. Seeing that the other party is several times faster than before, Zuemo cautiously exited the room. Jinbing's figure also walked out closely behind. He looked a little scary at this time. All the skin surface turned blood red, and the skin even cracked in some places, and traces of blood slowly flowed out from the wounds. Oops, Zuemo immediately realized that the other party must have used some kind of drug that was extremely harmful to him. After all, there are endless black technologies in this world, and it is not unusual for such drugs to appear. Jinbin, who came out, didn't say anything nonsense, but pounced directly on Zuemo. He himself knew very well that the effect of the drug was time limited. If he could not kill the opponent before the effect of the drug disappeared, he would be the one who died in the end. Almost instantly, the two bodies collided again. This time it was no longer a completely overwhelming situation like last time. The two were almost evenly matched. Even Jinbing, who was strengthened by the potion, still suppressed Zuemo in terms of strength. Zuemo could only rely on being slightly faster than the opponent to fight with him. In terms of combat experience, there is still a gap between him and the opposite Kingpin. After all, less than half a month ago, he was just an ordinary person. It was indeed a bit fanciful to think that in such a short period of time he could stand shoulder to shoulder with the Kingpin who had worked hard all the way. Knowing that he might not be able to defeat the opponent with his fists alone, Zuemo stretched out his hand, and a weapon made of alloy and similar to the Tangdeo appeared in his hand. The system comes with an unlimited storage space. However, this storage space can only store items exchanged in the system. This sword was exactly the weapon he exchanged in the system. It cost 300 points. It is a tier 4 weapon in the Lengyu series, and can withstand the full power of a junior warrior without being damaged. Opposite Jinbing, looking at the sudden appearance of the sword in Zuemo's hand, there was a hint of fear in his eyes. Zuemo stepped forward with his sword and struck the opponent fiercely. Seeing that the sword was about to touch Jinbing's skin, Zuemo felt a resistance coming from his hand. The blade of the sword has been firmly controlled by Kingpin. At this time, he was wearing a pair of gloves made of some kind of metal, which could withstand the slashing of the sword. It was obviously not an ordinary alloy. A cruel smile appeared on Kingpin's face. "It's my turn now." After saying that, he made a fist with his right hand and hit Zuemo hard on the body. The sword was caught by the opponent. In desperation, Zuemo also made a fist with his left hand and faced it. After a huge roar, Jinbing stood there without moving at all, but Zuemo's figure tumbled and fell back to its previous position. Looking at his trembling left hand, Zuemo had a solemn look on his face. A conservative estimate is that the opponent's strength has reached 12 or 3 tons, although the skin on the opponent's body is constantly chapped as he moves. Depending on the situation, he should be able to hold on for a long time. Without giving Zuemo time to breathe, Jinbing's huge figure appeared in front of Zuemo again. The two were entangled again. Waves of huge roars echoed in the streets. Unlike last time, this time the attack and defense were different. It was Jinbing who kept attacking Zuemo, while Zuemo used the opponent's strength to keep the distance and fight with the opponent. If it weren't for the need for the sword in Zuemo's hand, he would have been defeated long ago. This is not a solution. A trace of anxiety flashed in Zuemo's eyes. He could feel that with the continuous fighting, his arms were gradually numb under the opponent's strength. If this continued, it would not be long before he could no longer block the opponent's attack. And with the speed being almost the same as his, it would be a bit difficult to escape. The only way now is to practice the first level of the Thunder Blade. After the first level is practiced, his strength can be doubled to 20 tons. The current Jinbing's strength does not exceed 15 tons at this time. Two figures ran over from a distance. It was not until they got closer that they realized that the two people were Wanda and Pietro, the brother and sister. At this time, Pietro was holding a submachine gun in his hand. Wanda was carrying a Remington shotgun. With her ordinary physical fitness, she seemed a little out of breath after running all the way. However, the two did not have time to catch their breath, but came up and pulled the trigger towards Jinbing, who had separated from Zuemo. After seeing the two, Zuemo's expression changed. "Why did you two come back again?" He knew very well that the current guns no longer posed any threat to him and Jinbing. "You came to save me. I can't leave you alone," Pietro explained while resisting the recoil of the gun. Wanda on the side also nodded. He and Wanda had just been hiding in a car in the distance to watch the battle. In this way, even if they were discovered by Jinbing, they could control the car in time to escape. However, after seeing Zuemo gradually falling behind, the two could not sit still, took 2 guns from the car, and rushed over. After seeing the speed of Zuemo and others, the two chose guns based on the ability to hit the target. This is indeed the case. Under the firepower of the submachine gun and the huge attack range of the shotgun. Although Kingpin reacted quickly, he was still hit several times in an instant. Although the damage to him was not great, the pain successfully angered him, looking for death. After a roar, Kingpin flashed and rushed towards Wanda, who was approaching him. Chapter 11 Magneto, Brotherhood. Zuemo saw Kingpin rushing towards Wanda, and his expression changed. "Get out of the way." He dodged and blocked Wanda. He swung the sword in his right hand with all his strength. In a hurry, the first level of the Thunderblade appeared in his mind. A trace of enlightenment emerged in his mind. Naturally, a force surged out of his right hand that swung the sword again. The speed of the sword increased by 60%. Kingpin, who was confident that he could block Zuemo, showed a look of horror on his face after noticing it. No, the sword slashed fiercely on his neck in Kingpin's wide eyes, punchy, as if cutting tofu. The sword passed by as light as nothing. Kingpin's expression froze instantly. Then, his head slowly fell to the ground. "Kill the villain and get 10,000 points. The system's prompt sounded in Zuemo's mind. Zuemo, who was immersed in the joy of practicing the first level of the Thunderblade, brightened his eyes. As expected, he is a ruler of Hell's Kitchen, and he can handle hundreds of minions. "Ah, you okay?" At this time, Wanda came forward from behind. When Zuemo heard Wanda's voice, His eyes moved, and then his face turned pale in an instant, and his body softened, and he was about to fall backwards. Seeing this, Wanda hurriedly reached out to support him. "What's wrong with you?" Zuemo fell on her, looked at the worried look on her face, and smiled. "I'm fine, just a little exhausted." Although the system has been activated now, Zuemo has not forgotten that there is still chaos power in Wanda's body. It is uncertain when this chaos power will awaken. If the other party suddenly awakens at some point, he is not sure what the other party's attitude towards him will be. He not only threatened the other party before, but also took away the other party's first time. It is obviously impossible to say that Wanda has no resentment towards him. And now this great opportunity to improve his favorability, he will naturally not give up easily. Seeing Zuemo in danger to save the two siblings, Wanda felt a little warm in her heart. "Thank you. I'll help you go back." As she spoke, Wanda was about to help Zuemo walk towards the car. At this moment, there was a blast from behind them. A black figure broke through the window, flew out of the building, and fell to the ground. The three turned their heads and looked over. Natasha covered her back and slowly stood up from the ground. "My back." Before Zuemo and the others could figure out the situation, a man who was stronger than Kingpin walked out of the building. The man wore a metal helmet on his head. After taking a look at Kingpin lying on the ground with his head and body separated, the man's angry eyes fell on Zuemo and the other two. "Did you kill this man? Damn it, damn bastard. If you kill him, where can I get the money? If I can't get the money, then..." The man kept talking to himself. Seeing this, Zuemo turned to Natasha and gestured with his hand. "That means, where did you provoke this madman?" Natasha spread her hands. Obviously, she didn't know where this madman came from. After the man muttered to himself for a long time, he looked at Zuemo and the others again. "Since you killed him, I will take you back to report." After saying that, the man raised his foot and stomped on the ground. Boom. At this moment, the ground rolled up, and it was like there was a dragon under the ground, rolling towards Zuemo and the others. Seeing this scene, Zuemo was shocked. "Let's go." After saying that, he directly pulled Wanda and Pietro in one hand and rushed away. Natasha, who was on the side, saw this and her face changed, turned around and fled in another direction. The man wearing a helmet, who seemed to be not very smart, saw this and chased in the direction of Zuemo. However, although he could easily stomp the ground like an earthquake with a single kick, his speed did not seem to match his strength, and it seemed to have barely reached the limit of human beings. Although Zuemo brought two people with him, he still quickly got rid of this man. Sitting in the back seat of the business car, Zuemo let out a long sigh. Judging from the destructive power caused by the man just now, the power was at least more than 50 tons. Obviously, it was not something he could deal with now. He frowned slightly, and a thoughtful look flashed in his eyes. He had a low IQ, but great strength, and wore a helmet on his head. From these points alone, Zuemo could guess the other party's identity. The only one who met these requirements seemed to be the red tank, that obtained the power of the evil god Satorak, Kane Marco. But how could the other party appear in Kingpin's base camp? Recalling what he said before, combined with Kingpin's crazy kidnapping and extortion to make money during this period, Kingpin was obviously working for some organization, Brotherhood of Mutants. This was the only organization he could think of. After all, there were only a few organizations that Red Tank had joined. This was also the organization most likely to do such a thing. But no matter what organization it was, he was likely to be exposed to the other party's sight. Next, he had to improve his strength as soon as possible. Thinking of this, Zuemo took out his cell phone and dialed Solin's number. "Kingpin is dead. Spread the word and bring chaos to the gangs in Hell's Kitchen as soon as possible." Knack Island. A small island measuring more than 10 square kilometers is about 300 nautical miles away from New York. The headquarters of the Brotherhood of Mutants is located on this island. Located in a building on the east coast of the island. Red Tank looked at an old man sitting at the top. The old man also wore a metal helmet on his head. His identity is self-evident. He is the famous Magneto. Kingpin is dead. Where's the money? Eric didn't care about Kingpin's death. In his opinion, the other party was just a tool to help them collect dollars. Hearing this, Red Tank's face was stunned. "Have no idea, Eric. was not surprised by this answer and waved helplessly towards the other party. Forget it, go back and rest first. He knows that the opponent's brain is not normal, but among the current brotherhood, his ability is still recovering due to the mutant antidote. Only Han can stably suppress Jinbin, and is not afraid of the opponent's methods. Tanked. For this purpose, he also sent another mutant to accompany him. Because of what happened at the Golden Gate Bridge last time, after he was injected with a mutant antidote, his abilities disappeared. Without him, every surviving member of the Brotherhood is wanted by the government. Like rats in the sewer, hiding here and there. It wasn't until he recovered some of his abilities that he reunited these people. Eric turned to look at a girl sitting in the corner playing with the computer. Check it out. What's going on? No problem, give me some time. The girl showed a confident smile and then quickly started typing on the keyboard with her hands. Chapter 12. Exchange of Spiritual Nuclei. The next period of time. Because of Kingpin's death, coupled with the instigation of Soren and others, Hell's Kitchen fell into chaos. Every day and night, the sound of gunfire and police cars in this area continued intermittently. However, the government did not take any measures in this regard. After all, those who died were some gang members in Hell's Kitchen. They wished that all the scum would die. This morning. In the Manivela. Zuemo walked out of the bedroom in a daze. In the living room. Wanda was busy in the kitchen in pajamas. Hearing the voice behind her, she turned her head and saw Zuemo coming out with a sweet smile on her face. "You're awake, Zu." Emo came forward and hugged her from behind. "Why? Are you cooking in person today? Just leave these things to the servants." "But I want to do it myself." He took away Zuemo's mischievous hand and then glanced at her with a reproachful look. "Okay, go wash up first. Breakfast will be ready soon." "Okay." Zuemo could only leave the kitchen and walk towards the bathroom. Since saving Pietro last time, the relationship between the two can be said to have made great progress. Wanda seemed to have completely accepted him. It must be said that women like Wanda who have lacked love since childhood are particularly easy to be moved. As long as they pay a little good to her, she will be eager to return 10 times. What's more, in her opinion, Zuemo risked his life to save Pietro. When Zuemo returned to the restaurant again, breakfast was already on the table. Looking at the buns and rice porridge on the table, Zuemo seemed to have seen a ghost. "This is what you made." Of course, Wanda gathered her hair. "I heard from the servants that you only like Chinese food, so I tried to make some. I don't know how it tastes for the first time. It looks good." Zuemo looked at the other party's sweet smile and praised. Sure enough, even if we put aside the rewards of the system, if we pick out the most suitable person to be a wife from Marvel, it must be Wanda. After all, the other party's lifelong dream is just to have 2 children. The family lives in a peaceful town. This point is in line with the Chinese definition of a good wife and a good mother. The most important thing is that the other party is still so approachable. Sitting at the dining table, he picked up a bun and tasted it. Beef filling. The taste is surprisingly good. By the way, why haven't I seen Pete during this period? Hearing this, Wanda showed a trace of helplessness on her face. He found a job in Queens and rented a house. Now he has to go to work during the day and study the secret book you taught him at night. He hasn't been back for a long time. If I hadn't visited him 2 days ago, I would have thought he was kidnapped again. Zoo. Emma also felt a little helpless about this matter, whether it was the money he gave or the house and job arranged for the other party. Pete firmly refused to accept it. After rescuing him, the money was resolutely returned to Zuemo. According to him, he accepted the money because he didn't know Zuemo before and wanted to leave a guarantee for Wanda. However, after the last incident, he had completely trusted Zuemo's character. This guarantee was naturally unnecessary. Moreover, he felt that he could fully support himself and did not need to rely on Zuemo's help. In this regard, Zuemo could only sigh that this brother-in-law was a good person. He sided the other party's persistence in Kung Fu. Zuemo gave him the gene energy cultivation method and let him study it first. After all, there are many Chinese specific terms in it which require him to slowly understand. He also gave him a large portion of fierce beast meat. so that he could slowly eat it to improve his physical fitness. When his strength is improved to that of a quasi-warrior, he can start practicing directly. However, these are all alternative plans. In contrast, Zuemo still prefers to let Wanda and the other two awaken their abilities according to the original trajectory. The two people with chaos magic and extreme speed are strong enough to protect themselves in the gym. Zuemo look today. Document in his hand. These are what Soren has collected during this period about the situation of various forces in Hell's Kitchen. Under the stirring of the 9 of them, almost all gangs have been seriously injured. The members of large gangs have been reduced by at least half, and some small gangs have been directly. Hell's Kitchen has also been destroyed. Ushered in the safest period in more than 10 years. Open the system panel. Look at the points column above. 31,960 points. This is the accumulated points obtained during this period. The number of deaths of gang members in Hell's Kitchen in this turmoil has reached thousands, one after another. Because these people's deaths were caused indirectly by him, the points obtained have been reduced by a large part. The points have almost stopped increasing in the past 2 days. But these are enough to make his strength increase a lot. Open the exchange list of them all. Zuemo was dazzled by the various mutant abilities. Storm. Gain the ability to control celestial phenomena. Points required for redemption. 30,000 points. Teleport. Can instantly move to any location you have been to. Points required for redemption. 30,000 points. Sandification. You can manipulate the yellow sand at will, and you can also transform yourself into sand. Immune to a certain degree of physical attacks. Points required for redemption. 30,000 points. Clone. You can generate up to 100 clones, which are controlled by the main body. The damage suffered by the main body can be transferred to the clone. Points required for redemption. 30,000 points. Confidence bursting. Gain the ability of extreme self-confidence, the only one in the world. Spikes will grow on the body as a side effect. Points required for redemption. 100,000 points. Various abilities are good, but mutant abilities come from the X gene, which is too easy to be restrained. Even as strong as Magneto, after being shot by the mutant antidote, he will instantly become an ordinary person. Compared with mutant abilities, the power gained through cultivation is different. There is no need to be afraid of being restrained, and the upper limit is much higher than these mutant abilities. After browsing for a while, Zuemo's eyes moved. Spiritual nucleus can be integrated into the mind, release spiritual power autonomously, and be promoted to a spiritualist. The spiritual power contained in it can enable the host to reach the peak of the God of War level. Points required for redemption. 30,000 points. This is it. In an instant, Zuemo made a decision. After deducting 30,000 points, a dark golden sphere appeared in his hand. The sphere was the size of a soybean and looked like an illusion. According to the system's prompts, Zuemo touched the sphere to the center of his eyebrows. In an instant, the sphere disappeared in his hand. Zuemo felt a sharp pain in his mind. He felt dizzy. When Zuemo appeared again, he was already standing in a white space. Not far in front of him, a palm-sized black tower was slowly rotating. It was the star tower he had obtained before. Chapter 13. Spiritual Master. Conscious Space. Zuemo guessed. After all, he had watched the star tower sink into the center of his eyebrows with his own eyes before. At this time, he also noticed that the dark golden ball that had just disappeared was floating above the star tower. Before he could figure out the situation, the dark golden ball seemed to be stimulated, gradually accelerating its rotation, and large amounts of dense air continued to emanate from the ball. Psychic power. From the systematic explanation, we know that the amount of mental power released by the mental proto-nucleus has a great relationship with one's own physical strength. His current warrior strength is that of a junior warrior. His spiritual master's strength is at most 2 levels higher than that of a warrior. In other words, now the spiritual core can directly release spiritual power, raising his spiritual master's strength to the level of a high-level warrior. After only pausing in the conscious space for a moment, Zuemo's consciousness returned to his body. As soon as he returned to his body, severe pain was like a tide, instantly flooding his consciousness. After gritting his teeth and holding on for less than a quarter of an hour, Zuemo rolled his eyes and fainted. After he fainted, the release of energy from the dark golden ball in his mind did not stop, and was still rapidly increasing his mental power. I don't know how much time passed. The speed at which the mental core in his mind releases mental power has slowed down and gradually become stable. Zuemo also slowly opened his eyes after trembling his fingers. I fainted. Wait, this is it. There was a look of surprise on his face. There was no other reason. At this time, all the disturbances within a radius of 100 meters clearly appeared in his mind. Zuemo could clearly see the texture on the wings of the servants who cleaned the villa, Wanda who planted the plants in the garden, and even the butterflies flying among the flowers. This feeling is so wonderful. It was as if the world was under his control. Of course, he also knew that this was just his illusion. Withdrawing his senses, Zuemo focused his gaze on a dumbbell on the shelf opposite him. Something moved in my heart. The dumbbell seemed to be grasped by a pair of invisible hands and floated slowly. Is this spiritual power? Next, Zuemo's eyes scanned the various machines in the gym, and the machines he scanned floated one by one. Until half a minute later, the gym seemed to be in space, and all the equipment in the room, even the treadmills and bench presses, were floating. Until this moment, Zuemo still felt at ease. Open the properties panel. After putting these things back in their place, Zuemo thought silently in his heart. Name, Zuemo. Age, 20 years old. Strength, 15,360 kilograms. Speed, 118 meters/s. Psychic power, 61,600 kilograms. Ability, none. Points, 1960 points. First, the physical strength increased from 10 tons to 15 tons. Looking at it this way, the improvement of mental strength will also lead to the improvement of physical fitness. Zuemo had expected this, and there was not much surprise on his face, until his eyes fell on the column of telepathy. 61 tons. Seeing this number, Zuemo's eyes showed shock. This is already more than 4 times the physical strength. You must know that the early strength standard of the God of War was only 64 tons. Now he is not too far away from this. After taking a long breath, Zuemo gradually calmed down. Became a spiritual master. If he faced the red tank from last time again, he was confident that he would be able to kill the opponent effortless. After all, spiritual masters can fly. Although telekinesis cannot act on the physical body, it can fly by stepping on weapons. Thinking of this, Zuemo opened them all again and planned to choose some weapons. But after only watching for a moment, he closed them all with an ugly expression. There is no way. It is too expensive. With his current points, he couldn't even buy a few throwing knives with the minimum materials. Now his mental power is very close to the junior God of War. Therefore, for weapons, you need to purchase at least 7 series of throwing knives. A 7 series flying knife requires 500 points, and a 9 series flying knife that can reach the peak of the God of War requires 1000 points. With all the points he has now, he can't buy 2 point with his current strength. He can control 4 flying knives at the same time while ensuring accuracy. These alone cost 4000 points. It's not that low level flying knives cannot be used, but when he attacks with all his strength, they will be easily damaged and become disposable items. Just imagine, 60 tons of power is concentrated on a flying knife. If the material is not enough, I'm afraid that it will be scrapped if it touches something with high hardness, etc. Zuemo suddenly thought of something and asked about the system in his mind. If the vibranium and adamantium alloys in this world are cast into flying knives, how many series would they be equivalent to? 9 series. The system's emotionless voice sounded in Zuemo's mind. Hearing this answer, Zuemo's eyes lit up. Brotherhood headquarters. A group of people pushed a box over 2 meters high into a circular hall. The hall was full of mutants. Magneto. Eric walked down from a seat in front of him. He stretched out his hand and brushed the outer wall of the box. Is this all the US dollars that Kingpin has collected during this period? Yes. A yellow-haired young man who walked in with a box nodded. Then he pressed a switch on the box. The box slowly opened. It was actually neatly piled with US dollars. This is a total of 500 million US dollars. Not enough. Far from enough. Magneto. Eric looked at the US dollars that were almost piled up in front of him, and his heart was unmoved. Instead, He spoke with a gloomy face. We still need a lot of funds to complete our plan. At this point, Eric was stunned, turned his head, and looked at the hacker girl in the crowd. The person who killed Kingpin last time seemed to be a rich man. The hacker girl nodded. When she heard it point, she tapped on the computer in her hand a few times, and then called up a document. Zhu Mo, CEO of Fox Films, is also the second largest shareholder of Stark Group. He has shares in almost all the well-known companies in the United States, but he sold them out some time ago. Despite this, the total value of his assets is more than 100 billion. Hearing the girl's words, people around exclaimed. Most of these mutants come from the bottom of society, and they are naturally shocked to hear this huge number. A smile appeared on Magneto's face. As long as we have the support of the other party, we don't have to worry about the problem of funds anymore. As he said, he waved his hand, and a pair of metal knives and forks flew out from somewhere in the room, stopped above his palm, and slowly rotated. I think the other party should be willing to support our mutant cause. Of course, all this needs to wait until my ability is fully restored. Chapter 14 Black Market Merchants and Saber-toothed Tigers. African coast. Salwa Giant's dock point in a dismantling yard with old ships parked one after another. A helicopter landed slowly. Zuemo got off the helicopter tightly wrapped, looking at the ship with dense gunfire in the distance in confusion. Someone got there first. This is where Ultron got the vibranium. And the black market merchant Ulysses here has the vibranium smuggled from Wakanda. It is also the easiest place to get vibranium at present. In fact, if you want to make weapons, adamantium is more suitable than vibranium. Vibranium has the effect of buffering kinetic energy and is more suitable as a material for making armor, and adamantium is indestructible and is the best material for making weapons for throwing knives. Of course, adamantium is more suitable. Unfortunately, the formula of adamantium has disappeared along with Stryker's Arclay base. It is not easy to find it. Zuemo can only choose vibranium as a second choice. Thinking of this, Zuemo did not hesitate, and his figure flashed and flew towards the ship. Inside the ship at this time, Ulysses, a short man, looked at a middle-aged man in the distance with fear under the protection of his men. The middle-aged man's palms had turned into two huge tiger claws. Drops of blood dripped from the claws. Two corpses lay on the ground behind him. The man also had several blood holes on his body. But as time went by, the wounds on his body were healing rapidly, and the bullets in the wounds were squeezed out. With the sound of a burst of dense bullets falling on the ground, the wounds on the man's body had recovered as before. Mutants? Seeing this situation, Ulysses quietly stepped back a few steps, glanced at the gunmen around him, and felt a little safe in his heart. I think I have made it very clear. If you want vibranium, just pay it obediently. The mutant on the opposite side obviously did not accept this suggestion. The lowered head gradually raised up, staring at Ulysses with eyes like a beast. Seeing this look, Ulysses immediately realized that the other side obviously did not seem to be able to communicate. He waved his right hand. Kill him. After giving the order, Ulysses turned and retreated. The surrounding gunmen pressed the triggers in their hands. A dense storm of bullets swept by. When the smoke cleared, the mutants had disappeared. In a room on the bottom floor of the ship, Ulysses held a pistol and listened to the movement outside. There were several gunmen guarding the room. This room contained all the vibranium he had stolen from Wakanda in the past few years, which was worth more than 1 billion. He obviously could not let such a large amount of wealth be robbed by the other party. When the gunfire outside stopped, his face was moved. Dead. He waved to a subordinate beside him. The gunman held the pistol tightly and walked towards the door, intending to go out to investigate. But he just walked to the door. Boom. With a bang, the door flew directly inside. The gunman who was about to leave was knocked to the ground by the alloy door panel, blood gushing out of his 7 orifices, and it seemed that he would not survive. Ulysses dodged the door panel and looked towards the door. The mutant standing outside the door was the mutant just now. After a burst of gunfire, then Ulysses felt a heat on his neck, and the opponent's bloody claws were already on it. Several gunmen around him slowly fell to the ground, covering the bloody holes on their bodies. Vibranium. Give it to me. The Mutant man let out a beast-like roar, and Ulysses had no doubt that, if he didn't hand over the vibranium, the other party would cut his neck in the next moment. Wait, I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you. Ulysses hurriedly pressed a button on the wall behind him. Enter the password on the keyboard. That appeared afterwards. A metal door slowly opened to both sides, and a device like an elevator descended from inside. Point on it were pieces of vibranium in transparent glass containers. All the vibranium is here, a total of 136 kilograms. Seeing the vibranium, the mutant pushed Ulysses away. Ulysses hurriedly left the door. The mutant man ignored him, but stepped forward to check, then put the vibranium into a bag, and walked out with it. Just as he reached the door, a figure fell from the sky and hit the ground hard. Looking at the scene in the cabin, Zuemo breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, I'm not late. Glancing at the room, he was stunned by the mutant's vicissitudes of life and his hands that turned into giant claws. As the man's wounds recovered quickly, several bullets were discharged from the wounds. Sabertooth. A name appeared in his mind. With this appearance and this powerful self-healing ability, Zuemo guessed the identity of this mutant in an instant. Why is he here? After a brief moment of confusion, Zuemo was relieved. This is a real world. Red Tank can get together with Kingpin, so it doesn't seem strange that Sabertooth can appear in this place. Get out of the way. Staring at Zuemo, who was blocking in front of him, the saber-toothed tiger made a low sound. Seeing the other party's eyes without any emotion being controlled by someone, Zuemo guessed. Thinking of this, he didn't plan to talk nonsense with the other party. The figure flashed and disappeared on the spot. The saber-toothed tiger only felt his eyes blurred, and before he could react, a black fist as big as a sandbag had appeared in front of him. A huge force came. The saber-toothed tiger only felt numb on his face, and then his body was like a rocket, knocking through several layers of steel plates, and rising into the air. Strong physical fitness, coupled with the super self-healing ability, that is not afraid of firearms. Compared with ordinary people, saber-toothed tiger Victor is almost an unsolvable existence. But unfortunately he met Zuemo. Strong physical fitness, in front of Zuemo's more than 30 tons of force and more than 100 meters per second speed after the amplitude addition, is not enough. Ulysses and his group of gunmen came to the door of the room, and just saw this scene, and his face was stunned. Who are you? Zuemo ignored him, but stepped forward, picked up the bag that Sabertooth Tiger left on the ground, opened it and took a look. After confirming that it was indeed what he wanted, a smile appeared on his face. Hey, man, that's my stuff. Give it back to me quickly. Ulysses saw Zuemo's action and said hurriedly. Looking at the other party's actions, it was obvious that he was also coming for the vibranium. Give it back to you? I robbed it with my own ability. Why should I give it back to you, Zuemo said righteously. Hearing this, Ulysses was speechless for a while. Man, you don't seem to recognize the situation in front of you. I advise you to be more sensible. As he said, he stretched out his hand and waved, and the muzzles of the guns in the hands of these men were pointed at Zuemo. If you know what's best for you, put down what you have in your hands. Zuemo turned around slowly and looked at the group of people. In addition to vibranium, these people are also very useful to him. After all, these are all points. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15 Vibranium in Hand, Secret Base. Just when Zuemo was about to make a move, boom. The figure of saber-toothed tiger Victor jumped out from the side, rushed towards Zuemo. Get out. Zuemo raised his foot and kicked the other party away. Victor flew directly into the cabin beside him like a sandbag. In less than 2 seconds, the other party jumped out again. Seeing that the other party was still alive and kicking. Zuemo shook his head. The self-healing ability is indeed a bit troublesome, but do you think that this can't do anything to you? However, before he could make another move, Ulysses, who was ignored on the side, showed an angry look on his face. Asshole. He waved his right hand violently. Open fire. After receiving his order, the group of men looked at the two people standing in the distance, a little at a loss. The deputy standing next to him hesitated for a moment and then asked in a low voice, "Boss, who are you going to hit?" Ulysses slapped him angrily. "Of course, we'll shoot both of them. All of them must die." After receiving his order, the gunmen under his command no longer hesitated and pulled the triggers in their hands in an instant. Gunshots rang out, and the cabin was filled with smoke. The bullets fired at Zuemo all hovered in the air less than 1 meter away from him, and Victor instantly had more than a dozen blood holes on his body. The enraged Victor roared, gave up Zuemo, and rushed towards the gunman. Seeing this, Zuemo was the last to come and blocked Victor. "If you want to steal my head, get out of here." His right hand turned into a fist and hit Victor's face. At the same time, 4 flying knives flew out from behind him. Under the effect of telekinesis, they turned into a residual image and shuttled through the cabin. The moment his right hand touched Victor's skin, the 2 forces naturally passed from his arm to his fist and superimposed together. 30 tons of power instantly exploded on Victor's face. Boom. Victor's face exploded directly in Zuemo's hand point under the huge force. His figure disappeared in a flash and sank into the cabin in the distance point on the other side. The flying knife entered the crowd point. Those gunmen fell down in a moment like cutting wheat. Points. Plus 80 points. Points. Plus 60 points. The system's prompts kept ringing in Zuemo's ears. In less than 10 seconds all the people around fell to the ground and blood flowed from the wounds on their necks, dyeing the ground red. The flying knives without a trace of blood were suspended beside Zuemo. These flying knives were made by Zuemo using titanium alloy, which was more than enough to deal with these ordinary people. Zuemo walked to Ulysses, the only survivor on the scene. Ulysses had collapsed to the ground in fear of the hellish scene around him. "Devil, you are a devil. Thank you for the compliment. As a thank you, I will send you to reunite with your men." After saying that, Zuemo stretched out his hand to strangle the other party's neck and gently exerted force. Crack. Kill the villain and get 2000 points. Open the system panel to checkpoint. After clearing out all these arms dealers, the points have accumulated to more than 6000 points. In other words, in less than a minute, nearly 5000 points have been obtained. Close the panel. Zuemo walked towards the saber-toothed tiger that had just been knocked away. Although his face exploded directly under the previous blow but judging from his previous recovery ability, this was nothing to the saber-toothed tiger. Sure enough, there was no trace of the other party in the cabin. The other party seemed to realize that he could not get any benefits from him, so he ran away directly. Zuemo, who had expected it, was not panicked. He picked up the vibranium in the cabin and left directly. After returning to the helicopter, Zuemo took out a tablet. After operating it for a while, a map appeared on the screen. 2 red and blue light spots kept flashing on the map. The red spot was where he was, the blue spot was where the saber-toothed tiger was. When they just fought, Zuemo had already put a pocket locator on Victor. It can be seen from before. It seems that the stronger the person is, the more points he gets for ordinary people. At most there are only a few dozen points for a person as powerful as Kingpin. One person is equivalent to nearly 100 ordinary people. From the dull expression of the saber-toothed tiger before, it can be seen that the other party is likely to be controlled by a mutant with psychic abilities. There are not many mutants with psychic control abilities. Those who can control saber-toothed tigers are even rarer, and it is obvious that people who can do such things cannot be decent people. This means that, after killing the other party, he can get a large amount of points. Of course, the most important thing is with the Star Tower in his sea of consciousness, he can almost be regarded as the nemesis of these psychic control mutants. Soon, he saw the blue dot on the tablet move faster, and then it left the African continent at a very fast speed and moved towards America. Zuemo's private plane also took off. A few minutes later he chased in the direction where the blue dot left. A few hours later the blue dot on the tablet stopped. Zuemo looked at the location of the blue dot. It was located in a mountain range in Florida. In order to prevent being discovered by the radar of the other aircraft, Zuemo's private plane had just entered the airspace of the United States. However, Zuemo did not plan to take a private plane to go there. The private plane landed at the nearest airport. Half an hour before the plane landed, Zuemo had already left the plane point the periphery of the Appalachian Mountains. A plane slowly landed on a platform halfway up the mountain point. A moment later, the figures of saber-toothed tigers and a middle-aged man walked down from above. The two walked to the mountain wall of the platform, and a huge alloy door embedded in the mountain wall slowly opened. After entering the interior, after passing through a long corridor, there was a huge laboratory. The walls around the laboratory were all made of glass, and behind the glass were small rooms like prison cells. In each room, a mutant with a strange appearance was imprisoned. These mutants were tied to a metal operating table, and around them, there were several figures in white coats. Most of the mutants were in a coma, and didn't know whether they were alive or dead. The few mutants who were awake had a bit of emptiness and numbness in their eyes after the two of them passed through countless alloy doors standing in front of an old man in his 50s or 60s. What? Failed. The old man looked at the two people standing in front of him with anger. Waste, really waste, can't even do such a small thing. Sorry, Dr. Phil. Facing the other party's anger, the middle-aged man apologized in a low voice, while the saber-toothed tiger standing aside had a dull face. Seeing the dull look of the saber-toothed tiger, Dr. Phil became even more angry. He went forward and punched and kicked. He stopped until he felt his fists were a little sore. He sat down on the side panting. Damn it, without equipment made of adamantium, there is no way to transfer the self-healing factor into my body. No, we must be able to find a replacement metal. As he said this, he stood up and walked towards the laboratory. Chapter 16 Mutant Research Base. Before Phil walked out of the room, a piercing alarm sounded in the room. His expression changed, and he turned his head to look at the surveillance screen on the wall. He immediately saw a tightly wrapped figure landing from the air on the top of the mountain, where the base was located. It's him. The middle-aged man standing trembling beside him looked at the familiar figure in the surveillance screen and screamed. After hearing this, Phil was not surprised but happy. You mean the vibranium is in his hands? That's right. The middle-aged man nodded. It was he who injured the saber-toothed tiger and took away the vibranium. Phil's eyes lit up. He's very brave. He dared to follow after taking the vibranium. Hearing this, the middle-aged man also reacted and looked at the saber-toothed tiger. A moment later, he found a soybean size locator from his pocket. A look of fear appeared on his face. I'm sorry, doctor, it's my negligence. No. Phil shook his head. You did a great job. After saying that, he pressed a button on the wall. Instantly, a piercing alarm sounded throughout the base. One by one, soldiers holding guns in their hands rushed out from various rooms of the base and gathered towards the entrance of the base. Outside. Landing on the top of the mountain, Zuemo, who was gradually approaching the entrance of the base, immediately saw the soldiers rushing out of the base. Discovered. Looking at the soldiers gathering quickly, Zuemo reacted immediately. Since he was discovered, he was too lazy to play hide and seek with the other party. He thought. The soldiers who had just run out of the door immediately felt an irresistible force coming from the guns in their hands, and the guns flew out of everyone's hands in an instant. Then these guns were like soldiers in a line. They were neatly arranged in the air, with the muzzles pointed at their masters just now. Seeing this scene, those soldiers died instantly. They turned around without hesitation and ran back. However, their speed was obviously too slow. Just after turning around, the triggers of those guns seemed to be pulled by someone. Da da da. The dense gunshots echoed in the corridor, mixed with screams. When the magazines in the guns were emptied, the armed forces and the entire base were almost wiped out. Then Zuemo stepped into the base. 4 flying knives flew out from behind him and circled around his body. The researchers who had long known that the base had been invaded also turned into combat units, each holding a gun and pointing it at the door. As the footsteps got closer and closer, Zuemo stepped into the laboratory. As soon as he entered, he looked through the transparent glass around the laboratory and saw the mutants in the back room as experimental subjects. Research on living mutants. Zuemo frowned, looking at the researchers in the distance with a hint of coldness in his eyes. When those researchers saw Zuemo coming in, they almost pulled the trigger at the same time. Unfortunately, Zuemo's reaction was also not slow. The telekinesis enveloped the group of researchers. At the moment when the other party pulled the trigger, the muzzles of their pistols seemed to be squeezed by some force and gathered together towards the center. Instantly, the sound of bursting barrels rang out one after another. Screams came from the room. At the same time, the flying knives hovering around Zuemo flew towards the people lying on the ground. In less than half a minute, the room became quiet. This scene was clearly shown in the surveillance on the wall of Phil's office. Doctor Phil stood there with a dull look. Magneto. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. He showed an unbelievable look on his face. Whether in terms of height or body shape, the other party did not look like Magneto. Moreover, as far as he knew, Magneto seemed to have lost his mutant ability. Ordinary people may not know it very well, but for them, it is not a secret that Magneto was injected with a mutant antidote. Devil. It must be the devil. At this time, the middle-aged man who was still in the room fell to the ground with a plop, and a shrill cry came out of his mouth. This shout actually woke up Dr. Phil. Shut up. After scolding him, he turned to the back of the office, took out a small suitcase from the safe in the corner, stood up and fled to the back of the base. Now the situation is very clear. If he doesn't leave now, he may not be able to leave. When he reached the door, he turned around and gave an order to Sabertooth Tiger. Follow me. After that, he and Sabertooth Tiger left together. He tried his best to obtain the self-healing factor in Sabertooth Tiger's body, so he would naturally not abandon him. The middle-aged man who was lying on the ground also reacted at this time. He quickly climbed up from the ground with his hands and feet. Doctor, take me away, as he said. He chased in the direction where the other party left. Get out. After a gunshot, the middle-aged man fell in a pool of blood. At this time, there was no one in the base near the door. Zuemo entered the base. Just glanced around. Could this be a secret base of Hydra? The various researchers and well-equipped soldiers in the base made Zuemo come to this guess without pausing. He flashed and rushed to the depths of the base. After seeing everything in the base, Zuemo also realized that his previous guess was obviously inaccurate. This is obviously a secret organization that studies mutants. His whereabouts have been exposed, and coupled with the destruction of the armed forces in the base. In this case, the person in charge of the base is likely to choose to escape. They must be intercepted before they escape. In less than half a minute. Zuemo followed the passage to a small platform at the back of the mountain. On the platform at this time, the saber-toothed tiger stood in front of a zipline extending to the foot of the mountain. In the distance, it seemed that someone was hanging on the zipline and slid downwards. Seeing the saber-toothed tiger who also hung the hook on his body and was about to leave, Zuemo moved his mind. No matter how hard the saber-toothed tiger tried, the zipline did not move at all. Until then, the saber-toothed tiger also noticed Zuemo, who appeared behind him. After a roar, the saber-toothed tiger pulled off the hook on his body and rushed towards Zuemo. Having discovered the opponent's lair, Zuemo naturally did not intend to let him go. Besides, the owner of the base was fleeing at a high speed, and he had no time to delay here. Twice the force. Spiritual power blessing. The right hand with a metal glove clenched his fist and smashed it towards the opponent. Spiritual power cannot act on the flesh and will directly penetrate it after contacting the flesh. In order to facilitate the blessing of power and flight. He specially built a set of metal combat clothes. The body strength is 15 tons and 2 times the force is 30 tons plus 61 tons of mental power blessing. At this moment, the right fist he swung had a force of nearly 100 tons at the moment of punching. A huge air explosion echoed on the platform. The fist hammered the saber-toothed tiger as fast as lightning. The saber-toothed tiger paused, and his body seemed to be paused in the air. Then, his body exploded instantly like a punctured balloon. Points. Plus 12,000. The system's voice sounded in his mind. However, he didn't have time to check, and he jumped and chased in the direction of the zipline. Chapter 17 Armor Storage Ring. At the foot of the mountain. Dr. Phil rode a zipline and stopped at an open space in a dense forest. As soon as he unhooked the hook on his body, the man heard a sound of air being cut in the sky behind him. He turned his head and saw the familiar figure chasing him. Fuck. Dr. Phil made an angry sound and ran to a wooden house on the open space. A moment later, An off-road vehicle roared out of it, and after a tailspin, it rushed in the opposite direction of Zuemo. Doctor Phil, who was driving the vehicle, saw the figure approaching at a high speed in the rearview mirror, and in anxiety, he stepped on the accelerator of the car to the bottom. But obviously, no matter how good the car's performance is, it can't be compared with the flying unit in this terrain. At this time, Zuemo was less than 50 meters away from him. Doctor Phil took a pistol from the car, stretched his left hand holding the gun out of the window, and shot at Zuemo in the sky. Unfortunately, the pistol bullets posed no threat to Zuemo at the moment. Zuemo dodged all the bullets easily. Doctor Fear, on the other hand, was distracted and did not notice a fallen tree lying in the middle of the road. When he saw it, and wanted to dodge, it was too late. Crack. The car, which was traveling at a speed of nearly 150 km per hour, crashed directly into the tree, and took off successfully. After a roll, the car flew towards the dense forest on the side of the road. In the end, the car was placed on a big tree next to it. Doctor Fear in the car shook his head fiercely, trying to make his dizzy brain clear. Just at this time, Zuemo caught up with him. Slowly floating in front of the car, Zuemo looked at Dr. Fear, whose face was covered with blood in the cab of the car, and the corners of his mouth rose slightly. "Sir, this is not a good place to park." After saying that, he kicked the car off the tree directly. "No." Feeling the weightlessness, the doctor screamed in horror. You know, at this time, the height of the car from the ground is at least 7 or 8 meters. If the landing posture is not right, he might die here. However, the moment the car was about to touch the ground, it was directly supported by an inexplicable force. Zuemo used telekinesis to control the vehicle to slowly land on the ground. He stepped forward and pulled down the deformed door, then pulled the other party out of the cab and threw him on the ground beside him. "Do you want to introduce yourself directly, or wait until I torture you?" I'll tell you. After a series of stimulations, Dr. Phil's heart was already a little broken. He hurriedly began to introduce himself. As he spoke, Zuemo also understood the identity of this person. His name is Phil Andrew, a researcher under Stricker before the last battle to destroy Lake Ackley. He escaped because he was not in the base. Over the years, he secretly developed a technology that can transfer the healing factor in the body of a saber-toothed tiger. After that, he designed a way to catch the saber-toothed tiger and then use the remaining control potion in his hand to control the saber-toothed tiger. The purpose is to transfer the other party's healing factor to his own body. And this transfer technology requires the use of adamantium. He does have the formula of adamantium, but the most important material is missing. Vibranium. After much investigation, he found it on Ulysses. That's why everything happened before. Do you have the formula of adamantium? Yes, and the rest of the metals for synthesizing adamantium have been collected in the previous laboratory. As long as there is vibranium, adamantium can be synthesized directly, the other party hurriedly explained. Obviously, he hopes to let the other party spare his life by showing his value. Zuemo's mouth curled up slightly. Although he made a mistake in judgment, he did not encounter the expected mind control mutants here and gained points. But getting the formula of adamantium alloy was not a waste of his time. At that moment, he called Avril and asked her to deliver the vibranium left on the private plane. He picked up Phil with one hand and flew to the previous laboratory. The next day, a plane slowly rose from the Appalachian Mountains and disappeared in the sky at a high speed. A moment later, a violent explosion was heard at the original place. In the cabin, Zuemo looked at the whole set of armor made of adamantium and vibranium in front of him. Different from Tony's set, it is more appropriate to call his equipment made of vibranium armor. This set of armor is dark black and streamlined, and does not contain any electronic components inside. After all, with mental power, he does not need those power auxiliary systems. The main function of this armor is protection and convenience for his mental power control. 16 throwing knives made of adamantium alloy are distributed on both sides of the legs and arms of the armor. In addition to the flying knife, he also made a close combat sword. The sword is also made of adamantium, and there is a scabbard designed on the back of the armor to hold the sword. Open the system all. After a fight, his current points have reached 27,000. He first searched for Storage equipment in the mall. Point soon. A list appeared in front of him. Storage ring, F level, contains 1000 cubic meters of space. Points required for exchange. 3000 points. Storage ring, E level, contains 1 million cubic meters of space. Points required for exchange. 20,000 points. Storage ring, SS level, contains 1 million cubic kilometers of space. Points required for exchange. 300,000 points. World Master World, D level, refined from the World Master Small World, with a space diameter of 100,000 kilometers, can store living things. Points required for exchange. 1 million points. God Kingdom Crystal, D level, after the death of an ordinary immortal strongman, the God Kingdom is refined, with a space of 1 million kilometers in diameter inside. Points required for exchange. 10 million points. The various storage items in the list made Zuemo jealous. Apart from anything else, the D-level world of the Master of the Realm alone can fit the entire Earth. Point after all, the diameter of the Earth is only more than 10,000 kilometers. However, the points required for the exchange later still calmed Zuemo down. Point after thinking for a while, he only exchanged for an F-level storage ring. Point the current points are limited, and they should be used to improve strength. Besides, the things exchanged by the system can be stored in the system space. 1000 cubic meters of storage space is enough for him to use for the time being. Point the length, width and height of the space are all 10 meters. Ordinary family cars can hold hundreds of them. Congratulations. To the host, you have obtained an F-level storage ring, which consumes 3000 points. Chapter 18 Agent Hill. The system prompt just fell. Point an ordinary ring appeared in his hand. Point the ring was just an ordinary circular shape, and it was impossible to tell what material it was made of. Point he put the ring on his finger, and then explored the ring with his telekinesis. After the telekinesis touched the ring, he instantly sensed a square space with a length, width and height of 10 meters, and the shape of this space could be changed at will according to his wishes. Not bad, Zoo. Imo nodded with satisfaction. Point he waved lightly at the armor beside him, and the armor appeared in the storage ring. When Zuemo returned home, it was almost noon. Point. As soon as he returned to the villa, a servant came up to report that someone who claimed to be an FBI agent visited. FBI? Zuemo showed a trace of doubt on his face. In the past, his only intersection with the FBI was limited to being warned by the other party at the beginning of every movie. As for seeing the real person, this was really the first time. Point a few minutes later, in the reception room. Point a tall woman sat opposite Zuemo. Point the woman was wearing a black tights, outlining her beautiful figure. Her hair was neatly tied behind her head. Her blue eyes looked at Zuemo with a hint of curiosity. Hello, my name is Mariah Hill, from the Strategic Defense Attack and Logistics Bureau. Before coming, she thought that this Zoo would be a tall and strong man with arms as thick as thighs. After all, she knew Kingpin's information very well. To be able to kill Kingpin, who was covered in muscles, the opponent's body should at least be no worse than the opponent's. But she never thought that the opponent was such a well-proportioned man with fair skin. After the two shook hands, Zuemo's eyes showed a hint of realization. No wonder he looked familiar when he saw him just now. He only realized after hearing his name that he was the commander of S.H.I.E.L.D., second only to the director, Black Egg. Agent Hill. Point in an instant, he also sorted out the context. Point obviously, S.H.I.E.L.D. learned from Black Widow Natasha that he had killed Kingpin. Point he could also guess the other party's purpose. Point it was nothing more than persuading him to join S.H.I.E.L.D. Point sure enough, the first sentence the other party said confirmed his guess. Mr. Zoo, I came here this time to invite you to join on behalf of the Strategic Defense Attack and Logistics Support Bureau. Hill handed the information in his hand to Zuemo with a serious face. Point Zuemo took the information from the other party, glanced at it casually, and threw it on the table in front of him. Point then he chuckled and looked at Hill opposite. You can't live a rich life, but risk your life to fight those gangsters, Miss Hill. I don't think this is a good idea. Hill didn't show any surprise at Zuemo's refusal. If she were the other party, she would not join this organization. Point she smiled and took out a tablet from her bag and opened a video on it. Point she handed it to Zuemo. I think you will change your mind after reading this, Zoo. Emo's expression changed, and he took the computer from the other party and started to read it carefully. The scene in the video was in a hall. It was full of mutants of various shapes, and it seemed that they were discussing something. Judging from the shooting angle, it should be a mutant who took the photo secretly. An old man with a metal helmet sat above the hall. Magneto. Brotherhood. Almost instantly, Zuema guessed that it was the scene inside the Brotherhood point, and what they were discussing was how to make him a member of the Brotherhood of Mutants. Of course, their main purpose was the huge wealth owned by Zuemo point. After watching the video, Zuemo's face darkened. He was not too surprised that the organization behind Kingpin and Red Tank was the Brotherhood of Mutants. He had guessed about this before point, but what puzzled he was why the other party was so eager to get a large amount of funds. Could it be that they were planning something big again? Originally, I was too lazy to care about the other party. If they made trouble, the X-Men would naturally stop them. But since they were plotting against me, don't blame me for being rude. Fortunately, I got the news in advance. Otherwise, I don't know when I would be plotted against by the other party. How about joining us? We can help you deal with these people together. Agent Hill continued to persuade. I'm afraid it's to help you. These mutants are making trouble, and S.H.I.E.L.D. can't just sit back and watch. After all, the original intention of their establishment is to deal with these anti-human organizations. It sounds good to say that they are helping themselves. In fact, they just want to use themselves to deal with these mutants for Zuemo's purpose of seeing through them. Agent Hill didn't show any surprise on his face, but looked at him seriously. It doesn't make any difference. After all, they do threaten your safety, don't they, Zoo? Emo thought for a while and looked up at Hill on the other side. Indeed, you are right. But unfortunately, I don't plan to join any organization, but we can cooperate. Oh, how do we cooperate? Hill was stunned for a moment, then asked. This time I can join hands with you to deal with these mutants. As a thank you for the intelligence you provided this time, I can help you deal with some difficult troubles. Of course, if the cooperation is pleasant, we can still make such a deal in the future. Every time you provide the intelligence I need, I can help you once. After this incident, Zuemo also realized the importance of intelligence. If Hill hadn't come to him, he might have suffered a loss. Although S.H.I.E.L.D. has almost become the Snake Shield, it is undeniable that except for the possible false information about Hydra, the rest of the intelligence network about various forces is still very powerful. Besides, he will not suffer any loss by doing this. Those who need S.H.I.E.L.D. to deal with are probably not good people. He himself needs to deal with these people to get points. In this way, he can not only deal with these people with helpers, but also not worry about the aftermath. It's a two birds with one stone deal. Hearing this, Hill on the opposite side shook his head. For this matter, I need to ask our superiors for their opinions. Of course, Zoo. Emo nodded. Let Hill take the phone and walk out of the room. In less than 10 minutes Hill walked back again. Happy cooperation. I will be your only contact person in the future. No one in S.H.I.E.L.D. will know about you, except me and the director. By the way, someone will send the information about the Brotherhood of Mutants later. After sending Hill away, Zuemo sat there and pondered. Now he has been targeted by the Brotherhood. Since the other party wants to attack him, he will not sit and wait for death. Although, in the movie universe alone, the power shown by Layer 1 at his peak can move thousands of tons of nuclear submarines. But if they really fight, it is hard to say who will win or lose. After all, his telekinesis can control almost any object, and his body is much stronger than the other party. Besides, he has a killer weapon to deal with them. Thinking of this, Zuemo came to the study on the top floor of the villa. Coming to the bookshelf, he pressed a button hidden behind the book, and the bookshelf slowly moved aside, revealing a room of about 30 square meters behind. He walked into the room. The walls in the room were filled with various firearms: Desert Eagle, M500 revolver, AK, Remington shotgun, Barrett heavy sniper. These are all Zuemo's collections over the years. With a light wave of his right hand, he put the firearms into the storage ring. After collecting them, Zuemo came to a half-person high-low temperature refrigerator at the innermost part. opening the box. Except for a few special firearms, the rest of the positions were neatly arranged with square magazines. He took one out at random and opened the magazine. What was neatly arranged inside was not bullets, but tiny needles. Chapter 19, Taking the 1000-year-old willow heart. Take out a syringe. The syringe contains a light yellow liquid. These are what Zuemo got 2 years ago through special means. The mutant antidote. As an ordinary person before, he naturally had to make some trump cards to deal with mutants. This thing, combined with his mental power, is simply a natural enemy of mutants. Put all the thousands of syringes in the box into the storage ring. He has already tested it with a watch, and the time in the storage ring is in a static state, so there is no need to worry about it deteriorating. With this thing in hand, he is not afraid of any mutant. Just after packing these things, there was a sound of opening and closing doors outside. "Dear, what are you doing?" Hearing this familiar voice, Zuemo's eyes moved. This doesn't seem to be Wanda's voice. After all, although the relationship between the two has eased a lot, the other party has never called him like this so far. Walking out of the room, where the weapons are stored, I suddenly saw a tall figure standing in front of the desk, looking at me with a smile on his face. "Wait, how come you are here?" After seeing the man's face clearly, Zuemo rubbed his eyes and showed a look of surprise on his face. The person in front of him was none other than his ex-girlfriend, Anne Hathaway. Seeing the look on Zuemo's face, and chuckled and walked forward. She put her hands behind his neck. "Why can't I be here?" "No." Before he finished speaking, Anne came up directly. "Don't be like this. My wife is downstairs." "Isn't this more exciting?" It was half an hour later when the two came downstairs. The three of them sat at the dining table. "It seems that someone from the FBI came to you just now. Did something happen?" Wanda took a sip of soup and asked casually. "Oh, nothing. Just some routine inquiries about Pete matter." Zuemo responded casually. He didn't intend to say anything about the shield. She is just an ordinary person now, so it's better not to let her get involved in these things. After a pause, Zuemo glanced at the two of them and asked in a nonchalant manner, "You wouldn't know the employees of your company?" Wanda asked curiously. Of course I know them. I mean, how did you two get together? And it seems that you have a good relationship." Just now upstairs, he was led astray by Annie. Before he could ask, it was not until this time that he asked the doubts in his heart. "Oh, Annie, we met at the company." Wanda looked up and glanced at him. "Really, Zuemo nodded. Some time ago, Wanda was a little bored staying in the villa all day, so she asked Zuemo to arrange a position for her in the film and television company. Unexpectedly, the two of them became besties. If it is said that there was no active calculation by Annie, he would not believe it 100%. But now it is too late to say anything. At this time, Zuemo felt a silky touch on his legs under the table. He looked up. Annie blinked at him. "This little goblin is simply amazing." After a tense and exciting lunch, Wanda sent Annie out. All afternoon, Annie was always provoking him intentionally or unintentionally. Could it be that the other party has awakened some strange attributes? He drove this thought out of his mind fiercely. A moment later, Zuemo looked at Wanda, who was walking back. "I'm afraid you need to go out and hide for a while." Although the Brotherhood's target is his assets, it is almost unlikely that they will attack Wanda and the others, but Zuemo has to prevent this from happening. Looking at Wanda with a puzzled face, he explained the Brotherhood's affairs. "I am sorry, it's because of the two of us that we got into such trouble." Wanda showed a trace of apology on her face. "It's nothing. Haven't you already compensated me?" Zuemo's smiling face flashed a hint of teasing. Although Zuemo didn't get her heart first, he got her first, but it turned out that, after getting the other person's heart, some special gamma play can indeed be unlocked. Hearing this, Wanda's face flushed instantly. I'll go upstairs to clean up." Zuemo looked at the red car disappearing from his sight and breathed a sigh of relief. Then, he went to the gym on the top floor alone. He had asked people to clear out all the equipment in the gym, and now it has become his training room. If he wants to completely solve the troubles of the Brotherhood, he still needs to improve his strength as soon as possible. After exchanging the storage ring, he still has more than 20,000 points left. Open them all list. Enter the treasures that improve strength. And after searching, Zuemo checked them one by one. Heart-shaped grass. After taking it, it slowly improves a person's physical fitness. The points required for exchange are 300 points. Plant. Dragon blood. Made from the heart blood of the king level dragon beast. It can improve physical fitness by 24 times after use. Apprentice level is effective, and the points required for exchange are 5,000 points. Millennium Willow Heart. The spirit of plants and trees. Contains huge vitality energy. After taking it, it can greatly enhance your physical fitness and cell activity, enhance the body's recovery ability, and redeem the required points. 18,000 points. Bibbo Marrow. After taking it, your mental power will be greatly enhanced. Points required for redemption. 100,000 points. Drop. Red Flame Fruit. After taking it, your physical fitness will be greatly improved. Points required for redemption. 100,000 points. Peace. There are so many treasures to choose from. Zuemo was dazzled by what he saw. But after taking a look at the points, I actually didn't have much choice. After a while, Zuemo sat cross-legged on the ground, with a 1 meter long green crystal suspended in front of him. Is this the Millennium Willow Wood Heart? I looked at the crystal carefully. The shell of the crystal is very hard, and there seems to be green liquid flowing inside. Zuemo checked its instructions. The method of use is to break its hard shell and consume the liquid inside. He took out an adamantium alloy flying knife and used it to lightly scratch the crystal shell, causing a small crack to appear on it. Seeing the liquid inside pouring out from the crack, Zuemo didn't dare to hesitate, put the crystal directly to his mouth, and let the green jelly-like viscous liquid flow into his mouth. There is a fragrance of vegetation in the mouth. As soon as the liquid entered his body down his throat, he felt a cool breath spreading through his body. As this cool feeling flows through the body, physical fitness gradually improves at the same time. The dark golden ball in his mind spun again, releasing of pure mental power. These mental powers were continuously absorbed by the brain. Improving his mental power to energies did not interfere with each other in his body, rapidly improving his strength. As his strength improved, Zuemo also felt a special energy gradually seeping into his body. Feel the endless feeling in your body after absorbing this energy. Is this the so-called vital energy? As this energy seeped in, a warm feeling spread throughout my body. In this soothing feeling, the rapid increase in strength is simply not very satisfying. Chapter 20. The Peak of the God of War. The Hunted White Queen. The whole process lasted more than 2 hours. As the speed of improvement stopped, Zuemo slowly opened his eyes. At this time, there was a layer of dark brown impurities attached to the surface of his skin. After cleaning these things first, I returned to the practice room feeling relaxed. Open the properties panel. Name: Zuemo. Age: 20 years old. Strength: 93,560 kilograms. Speed: 386 meters/s. Psychic power: 387,600 kilograms. Special ability: none. Points: 6160 points. Zuemo's eyes shone with excitement. The body exerts 93 tons of force and the mind exerts 387 tons of force. Compared with before, it has increased by more than 6 times. Moreover, the Millennium Willow Heart also has a major effect, which is to enhance the body's recovery ability. Thinking of this, he took out a throwing knife and lightly scratched his arm. The sound of a dull knife cutting cowhide was heard, and a shallow white mark appeared on the arm, where the adamantium alloy flying knife had scratched. Seeing this scene, Zuemo paused, and let out a sound of surprise. Holy shit. Although I know that the so-called physical improvement is an all-round improvement point, but he didn't expect the defense to reach this level. You must know that, although he only made a slight stroke, it was based on his power of more than 90 tons. Even if he has deliberately restrained himself, his strength is still only a few hundred kilograms, not to mention ordinary people. Even steel would be cut, like tofu, under this power, but it would only leave a faint white mark on his skin. Judging from this level of defense, I'm afraid even a sniper rifle can't hurt him at all. After calming down his excitement, Zuemo gradually increased the power on the flying knife. It wasn't until nearly 2 tons of force was used that a long and thin blood mark was scratched on the skin. but before the blood could flow out from the wound, the skin on both sides of the wound closed unusually quickly under his gaze. This resilience. Zumo's eyes moved. The recovery speed was much stronger than the recovery ability of the saber-toothed tiger he had seen before. So perverted, it can be said that a 1,000-year-old Liu Mux indirectly increased his combat effectiveness by a dozen times. After a while, a figure flew out of the villa at extremely fast speeds. Zumo's current flying speed exceeds Mach 2. It's about 700 meters per second, and the speed is about 2,500 kilometers per hour in less than 3 minutes. He arrived at a mountain range in New Jersey, more than 100 kilometers away from the villa. Less than half a minute had passed since Zumo took off. Shield headquarters in Nick Fury's office. Coulson walked in hurriedly. Director, major crisis. After hearing this, Nick Fury's expression changed. The last time he heard this, Tony was wearing a suit and fighting with Iron Overlord in the sky of New York. Coulson handed the tablet into his hand. A high-speed UFO was spotted over New York. Nick Fury looked at the data on the tablet. Mach 2, Tony Stark. No, I just got the news that Tony is staying in his Seaview villa. Since Tony Iron Man's identity was exposed, he has naturally become the focus of S.H.I.E.L.D., locating the opponent's location almost 24 hours a day. This is why Coulson immediately knew that the flying figure was not Tony. Nick Fury reached out and slid his hand on the tablet, looking at the flight path of the UFO. Wait a minute, could this be him in this position? The starting location of the UFO was very close to Schumer's villa by the Hudson River. He was almost sure of it. This UFO is probably related to Zumo. However, he did not intend to release the information about Zumo. In the past few years, he has also noticed that some forces have infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. It is better to keep some information secret, because he may not know when it will become a life-saving trump card for him. Thinking of this, he handed the tablet back to Coulson. Delete this incident from the recorder and pretend it never happened. Coulson had a surprised look on his face when he heard the other party's answer, but as an agent, he did not question the director's order. After nodding, he left the room. Nick Fury looked at the closed door and sighed secretly in his heart. It seems that we need to re-examine the opponent's strength. Zumo, wearing battle armor, was floating in front of a rock wall in the mountains. He planned to experiment to see how far his strength had reached. After taking a deep breath, Zumo made a fist with his right hand and slammed it against the rock wall. With twice the force, plus about half the blessing of mind power, nearly 400 tons of force hit the rock. There was an explosion of air. Boom. The huge explosion echoed throughout the mountains on the rock wall. A huge spider web centered on his fist and slowly spread. As Zumo retracted his fist, it seemed to cause a chain reaction. The entire rock wall fell with a crashing sound, and a moment later, a huge hole with a diameter of hundreds of meters appeared on the rock wall. In the dense forest at the foot of the mountain, countless flying birds were startled. He nodded with satisfaction. Now his physical strength can almost beat Hulk and Spider-Man. After all, just like Spider-Man's most brilliant achievement, it only takes more than 50 tons of force to stop a moving train. Just as he was about to try to control the flying knife with telekinesis, the cyclone around the Star Tower in his mind emitted a slight fluctuation. At the same time, bursts of gunfire came from the dense forest in the distance. Zumo paused. This is the first time that the Star Tower has fluctuated in such a long time since he got it. But after waiting for a while, there was no abnormality. He breathed a sigh of relief. According to his current strength, he is indeed far from activating the Star Tower. He turned and looked into the distance. The location of the gunshot was in the dense forest a kilometer away from him. Due to the obstruction of the trees, the specific situation over there could not be seen clearly. After hesitating for a moment, he moved his body and quietly flew in that direction. After a moment, Zumo hid in the dense branches of a tree and looked at the open space not far away. A group of robots, about 7 or 8 meters tall, surrounded a woman in white clothes with blonde hair in the middle. The woman seemed to be seriously injured, with her right hand covering her left shoulder and a large blood stain on her clothes. She looked up at the robots surrounding her. Anger flashed in the woman's eyes. In an instant, her skin turned into dazzling diamonds, and she rushed in the direction from which Zumo came. White Queen. Seeing this scene, Zuemo, who was hiding in the trees, showed a look of surprise on his face. This ability is really too special. As far as he knows, it seems that only the White Queen has this diamond-like ability in this world. And the robots surrounding her are likely to be the famous Sentinel robots combined with the fluctuations of the Star Tower before. Zuemo quickly understood. In addition to the ability to turn her whole body into diamonds, the White Queen also has telepathy like Professor X. The fluctuation of the Star Tower before was probably due to the White Queen's ability to activate towards his position. After all, he made quite a lot of noise before, so it was normal for her to find out. As for the purpose, Zuemo guessed that it might be to ask for help here, or to try to control the people here, to help her block these Sentinel robots. The White Queen, who rushed towards Zuemo, was stopped by the robot. After the surface of these robots flipped, the skin on the surface turned into diamond skin like the White Queen. Seeing this strange scene, Zuemo was surprised. No wonder the mutants were finally forced into a desperate situation by these Sentinel robots. This ability is really too abnormal. It can easily copy the abilities of various mutants. Almost any mutant will be restrained by the relative abilities. The White Queen rushed left and right among these robots, but could not break through. Zuemo, hiding in the tree, looked at the scene below. Save or not save. Almost without any hesitation, Zuemo made a choice. The White Queen has alpha level mutant abilities, which makes her very suitable as a helper in building a power with her abilities. There is no need to worry about the betrayal of her subordinates, although the exchange points for telepathic abilities in the mall only need 30,000 points. Zuemo has already asked the system, and these exchanged abilities are in the state after awakening. In other words, after exchanging this ability, it is in the initial state. It will take time to slowly control it. With this time, he might as well use it to practice the secret techniques of the illusionist lineage of the spiritualist. After all, that is more powerful than this telepathic ability. Chapter 21. The White Queen surrenders. After making the decision, Zuemo no longer hesitated. Judging from the situation in the open space, the White Queen may die at the hands of these sentry robots at any time. In the open space. Although his body's defense was greatly improved after turning into diamond, he still couldn't withstand the attack of a sentry robot that was more than 10 times his size. After another collision, the White Queen finally couldn't hold on any longer, and her body was blown backwards by the huge force. At the same time, the two sentry robots behind her turned their right hands into a huge cone-shaped weapon. He poked towards the White Queen's body. At this time, the White Queen, who was in the air, also noticed the situation behind her. But at this time, her body was completely numb from the successive collisions with the robots. There was no way to control his body flying backwards. It's over. At this moment, this thought flashed through the White Queen's mind. Her most powerful ability is still not inferior to Professor X's telepathy, but unfortunately, this ability is of no use to these robots. And the ability to transform into diamonds was also copied, leaving her with no chance of defeating the robot. Simply, she gave up and closed her eyes. But 5 or 6 seconds passed, and there was no pain at all. Slowly opening your eyes. Suddenly, he saw a figure wearing black armor standing next to him. The arm that the sentry robot poked was held in the hand of the man in front of him, and it remained motionless, no matter how hard the robot applied force. Zuemo's hands holding the sharp all closed together forcefully. The two sentry robots, which had transformed into diamond forms, collided violently and turned into fragments. Then Zuemo's figure kept flashing in the open space. Less than half a minute. The dozen or so sentry robots in the clearing had all been shattered into pieces. Saw this scene, the White Queen's eyes lit up. These sentry robots that have forced themselves into a desperate situation are like children in the hands of the opponent, without the slightest ability to resist. You are saved. Feeling relieved, the White Queen's diamond-shaped skin returned to normal thanks to her perseverance. The body sank suddenly. It was only then that she realized that she was floating in midair. After his body returned to normal, he fell hard to the ground. Pulling at the wound on her shoulder, she let out a low cry of pain. After finishing handling the robot, Zuemo turned around, looked at the White Queen who was gritting her teeth and screaming in pain, and put away the helmet. This was not what he meant to do. There was no problem with his mental power controlling her diamond body, but after she exited the diamond transformation, his mental power could not hold her up and passed directly through her body. Queen Bey looked surprised when she saw Zuemo's appearance. She didn't expect that the person who could completely torture these sentry robots would be such a young man in his 20s. He forced himself to sit up from the ground. She looked at Zumomo and said seriously, "Thanks. Thank you is more than just words. Can you still stand up?" After finishing speaking, Zuemo watched the other party try hard to support himself with his arms, but failed both times. Zuemo sighed. He stepped forward, picked up the White Queen from the ground, and flew away into the distance. New York, Brooklyn. In a sea view villa owned by Zuemo. Aha. As the White Queen groaned, the bullet left in her shoulder flew out from the wound. Tear off the clothes at the wound. Zuemo opened the medicine box and took out the medicine and bandages. "I don't think it needs to be that troublesome." As she spoke, the White Queen took off her top, leaving only her underwear. "Isn't this more convenient?" Zuemo looked stunned for a moment. After taking a deep look for a few times, he spread his hands. "As long as you're happy." The White Queen opposite saw Zuemo's expression and a smile appeared on her face. After bandaging the other party, Zuemo stood opposite her. "Luckily, the internal organs were not injured, but I need to rest for a while." The White Queen lay on the sofa in a state of exhaustion, tilting her head and looking at Zuemo opposite her. "You seem to know me." As a telepathic mutant, it can be said that her grasp of macro expressions is better than those of senior psychiatrists. Although she was unable to sense the other person's thoughts from beginning to end point, but just from the way the other person looked at her, she concluded that the other person must know her. Zuemo did not answer, but waved gently. A bottle of whiskey and 2 wine glasses flew out from the wine cabinet on the side. He reached out and took it, pouring a glass for each of them. "It's not important. The reason why I saved you is because you are of some use to me. It's that simple." After hearing this, Queen White's expression did not change much. As the person who was once second only to Black Emperor Zio in Hellfire, she naturally understood that it was impossible for the other party to risk his life to save her for no reason. Being able to save her means that she is worthy of taking action. At this time, the pain in the wound on her shoulder had subsided after applying medicine. He stood up from the sofa and walked to Zuemo. "It works." The White Queen's hand gently brushed over Zuemo's face, revealing a charming smile on her face. "Is it useful as I thought?" Half an hour later, after instructing the White Queen to recuperate in the villa, Zuemo's figure rose from the ground. The White Queen stood in front of the window of the villa, wiped the corner of her mouth, and watched Zuemo disappear in the sky. When she was in the jungle before, her telepathic ability could not sense the other party's existence. And just now she tried it twice again, and the result was the same as before. It's not the same as Professor X, who can feel the other party, but the other party relies on mental ability to generate protection, so that he can't invade. Zuemo's kind is completely unable to feel the other party's existence. In comparison, his ability is more terrifying than Professor X, and from the contact just now, he not only has an extremely strong physique, but also has the ability to control his mind. Among all the mutants she knows, there seems to be no one more terrifying than the other party. This is also the reason why she decisively chose to surrender. Zuemo was flying in the sky, recalling the information he had heard from the White Queen. A few years ago, White Queen Emma was targeted by Bolivar Teslak's mutant research company. After several fights, she realized that it was difficult for her to compete with the other party's sentinel robots, and then she chose to live in seclusion, avoiding the robots' pursuit. But she didn't expect that she was targeted by these robots again by accident some time ago. That's why the scene in the jungle happened before. And Zuemo knew that the main reason why the other party could stay easily was the pressure given to the other party by the sentinel robots without his own protection. It would not be long before Emma would become a member of the mutant research laboratory. Of course, she must be the subject of research. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22. Saratown, vampires. New York State. On a country road leading to a small town. Zuemo sat in the passenger seat of an ordinary Ford car with a relaxed look and slowly closed the information in his hand. You don't seem surprised at all. Hill, who was driving the car, looked at Zuemo, who looked normal, and asked in confusion. God knows how shocked she was after seeing the things recorded in the information just now. This is the legendary vampire. After hearing this, Zuemo looked at Hill with a smile on his face. Believe me, among the enemies you will encounter in the future, this thing is so terrible that it can't even be ranked in the top 10. The information in his hand was about vampires and the two of them appeared here together. Of course, Zuemo fulfilled his promise to help S.H.I.E.L.D. once. Since half a year ago, tourists have begun to disappear in a small town in New York State. Up to now, the number of tourists who have disappeared has reached hundreds. S.H.I.E.L.D. has sent many agents here to investigate, and the final result is the same as those tourists, disappearing strangely. Even the 8th level agent sent last week also lost contact. Nick Fury had no choice but to use the only chance Zuemo promised him to take action. After Zuemo got the news, he set off with Hill. The agents who died here did not gain nothing. There was an agent who sent out the last message before disappearing. The content of the message was only 3 words: vampire. Zuemo knew it very well. The vampires in the Marvel world can only be regarded as a group of weak chickens. Not only do they have the 2 major weaknesses of fearing sunlight and silver, even their combat power is only a little stronger than that of ordinary people. Even if an ordinary person is equipped with a silver long knife, he may be able to kill a few unarmed vampires if he tries his best. This kind of combat power can only be regarded as cannon fodder in the Marvel world full of superheroes. According to Zuemo's current strength, he may stand here and let them bite him. I'm afraid that they will not be able to hurt him at all, even if they try their best. On the contrary, for him, these vampires represent a lot of points. If we can find the other party's nest and clean them up, we may get a lot of rewards soon. The car stopped in front of a hotel called Saratown. Saratown is located in the northeast of New York State. Because of its old castles and hundreds of ancient buildings, it has become a well-known tourist destination. With the increasing number of tourists year by year, it has gradually developed to the present day and has become a prosperous town with nearly hundreds of thousands of permanent residents. Zuemo got out of the car, took off his sunglasses, looked at the pointed cone-shaped castles in the distance and the old buildings in the castle area, and a smile appeared on his face. The scenery is not bad. It is indeed a place suitable for tourism. Hill got out of the car, then took out 2 slender boxes from the trunk with great effort, glanced at Zuemo, and said speechlessly, "Do you really think we are here for tourism?" Although she is a well-trained 9th level agent, she is still a little uneasy in the face of the legendary vampire. It is impossible to be as relaxed and casual as Zuemo, as if she is here for tourism. Zuemo gave the other party a reassuring look after hearing this. Then he looked at the slightly shabby hotel in front of him. Your funds already so tight. Although we don't need to stay in a star-rated hotel. This is too perfunctory. Zuemo stretched out his hand to push open the door in front of him, which was a little mottled with paint falling off, and turned his head to look at Hill, who was carrying 2 boxes behind him. "Do you want to consider changing a boss? I can double your salary." Although Hill is just an ordinary person, his management and logistics capabilities are almost top-notch, and it is not a loss to have him as a subordinate. "Okay, if you have this idea, I will contact you as soon as possible." Hearing the other party's perfunctory words, Zuemo didn't care. The 2 came to the counter. "Boss, open a room." After a while, the 2 carried things into a room on the 2nd floor. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. disappeared here one after another. Obviously, the other party was already very vigilant. The 2 of them came here, naturally not in their true identities, but disguised as a couple who came to travel. Naturally, only one room was opened. Hill placed the 2 boxes in his hand on the bed in the room. Enter the password on the keyboard on the box. Squeak. After a burst of pressure relief, the box slowly opened. Zuemo looked into the box. No need to guess. You know that there should be some weapons used to fight vampires in the box. Although I don't know if it's useful. Weapons can always give people a sense of security. Hill said, and handed the box in his hand to Zuemo. After Zuemo took it, he looked at the pile of weapons inside. The first one was a silver long knife. It seemed to be made of some alloy mixed with silver. Zuemo waved it gently, and a corner of the wooden headboard slowly slid down, and the cut surface was very smooth. It has to be said that in terms of weapons and equipment, S.H.I.E.L.D. still has something. With a slight movement in his hand, the knife disappeared in his hand, and then he continued to look into the box. Hill, who was standing by, saw this scene and his eyes widened. Then he stepped forward and grabbed Zuemo's right hand that had just held the knife, and then looked around for a few times, but did not find any trace of the long knife. He rubbed his eyes in disbelief. It's my eyes that are blurry. Where is the thing, Zuemo moved his right hand slightly. The long knife suddenly appeared in his hand, and then disappeared again. You can understand it as some special ability. Seeing Zuemo perform again, Hill finally came to his senses. Oh my god, it's amazing. Are you a mutant? Well, you can understand it this way. Zuemo, who was too lazy to explain to the other party, responded casually. Then his eyes fell on the box in front of him again. In addition to the long knife, there were 3 other things in the box. A special pistol that fired silver bullets, with hundreds of bullets, several grenades emitting lavender light, and something that looked like spray type sunscreen. The pistol and bullets were not uncommon, and were put away directly. The grenade was also easy to guess. It should be a special grenade that can release ultraviolet rays, but Zuemo was a little confused about the last bottle of something that looked like a sunscreen spray. He turned his head and looked at Hill on the side. What is this? Hill, who had recovered from his shock, hurriedly explained after hearing this. This is a skincare spray, which contains silver element. According to them, after spraying this spray on your body, vampires will not be interested in you at all. What is the difference between this thing and garlic water? After hearing this, Hill was stunned. After thinking for a while, he said, the only difference may be that, after spraying this thing, ordinary people will not regard you as an alien. Chapter 23, Castle, Traces of Vampires. Give all the equipment to Zuemo. Hill went to search for the traces left by the previous agents, leaving Zuemo alone in the hotel. After all, investigating things is the job of these agents, and Zuemo only provides military assistance. After the other party left, Zuemo had nothing to do, so he walked out of the hotel and strolled in the town. It was just May. It was the peak season for tourism. Tourists with backpacks could be seen everywhere on the streets of the town. It seems that the government suppressed the disappeared of tourists. Zuemo sighed. Otherwise, after receiving the information of a large number of missing people, there would not be so many tourists. No, he suddenly realized that, if there was no one behind the scenes, the government would most likely not choose to suppress the news. After all, there were hundreds of people, and it was difficult enough to just shut up the mouths of these people's families. Why would the government do such a thankless thing? In this case, it is very likely that senior government officials were involved. After all, for those high-ranking officials, the temptation of eternal life is indeed attractive enough. Although there is a side effect of not being able to live in the sun, if you have to choose between death and just not being able to see the light, no one will care about this small disadvantage. Zuemo wandered around the town aimlessly like an ordinary tourist. Few hours later, the sky had gradually darkened, and he also came to the area of the ancient buildings. This area is very large. It occupies nearly half of the area of the entire town. The several castles located in the center of the ancient building complex are private areas and are not open to the public. Zuemo just walked on a road leading to the castle and was stopped by someone. Seeing this, he did not insist anymore, but turned around and left. After walking to a position where the guards could not see, a set of armor suddenly appeared on him, covering his whole body, and then he moved and flew towards the direction of the castle. If it is said that the most easily associated with vampires in this town is these castles in front of him. After all, from the movies he had seen, vampires all lived in castles, but the fact seemed to disappoint him. He checked several castles in succession. Except for a few daily maintenance staff, he did not find the vampires with extremely pale faces that he had imagined. Because it was completely dark now, He had no way to confirm whether these people were vampires just by their appearance. He could only test them one by one. The test method was also very simple. He sprayed the bottle of liquid mixed with silver particles that Hill gave him on the point. If there were vampires, they would obviously not remain indifferent. But the result was obvious. These people were really just ordinary people. Until his figure approached an ancient castle in the center, a shout came from the room on the top floor of the castle. "Something's going on, Zoo." Emo's face was happy. Then his figure flashed and floated outside the window of the room where the shout came from. Looking into the room. The one who made the shout was a girl. Tied to a chair in front of the girl stood an old man whose hair was half gray. At this time, the old man was pulling the girl's clothes with both hands. The girl's clothes had been almost torn off, leaving only a set of white lace underwear. If you see this scene in a movie, if someone jumps out to save the beauty at this critical moment, Zuemo will probably curse the hero's ancestors. But in this reality, Zuemo still chose to take action. A pistol filled with silver bullets appeared in his hand, and he pointed it at the old man in the room, and pulled the trigger directly. Bang. After a gunshot, a bloody hole appeared on the old man's head, and he slowly fell to the ground. Kill the villain. Points plus 80. It's not a vampire. Looking at the blood flowing from the other party's wound, Zuemo sighed in disappointment. With a move, he entered the room from the open window. Zuemo stretched out his hand and waved it lightly, and a flying knife flew out, cutting the rope on the girl. In the process of cutting the rope, the flying knife touched the girl's skin intentionally or unintentionally. The girl seemed to be of this. It seems that I'm too unaware. Zuemo saw this and thought to himself, "Put on your clothes. I will send you away." Then he stood up and stood in front of the window, looking at the scenery outside. Since he didn't encounter a vampire, he also planned to leave quickly. Hill should be going back soon at this time. I don't know if she has any gains. The moment the tied girl saw the flying knife, a strange color flashed in her eyes. Hearing that the other party was going to send her away, the girl did not rush to put on her clothes, but walked to Zuemo's side. "Are you a mutant?" Looking at the girl standing in front of him, Zuemo said coldly, "This doesn't seem to have anything to do with you." Seeing that Zuemo did not deny it, the girl grabbed his arm with both hands and said hurriedly, "Please, save my sister. As long as you can save my sister, I will agree to any conditions you have." After hearing this, Zuemo was unmoved. "I can send you to the police station later. You should ask them for help in this matter. Do good deeds and save people. That's what the police and other public officials should do. It doesn't matter if it's just a matter of saving people." But he has no interest in being a superhero. Hearing Zuemo's refusal, tears flowed from the girl's eyes. "I've called the police, but these police didn't do anything at all. Instead, they used it as a threat." As she said that, her eyes fell on the old man who was already dead. "This man is the chief of the police station." Hearing the girl's explanation, Zuemo was shocked. It's a free country, and this chief's operation is a bit six. Not only did the criminals have to take a few shots, but even those who came to call the police were not spared. "Who took your sister away? Those are not people, but some monsters like vampires." Hearing her words, Zuemo's expression moved. "Ah, you saying that she was taken away by a vampire?" The girl heard the words. Hope rekindled in her eyes, and she quickly wiped away her tears. "I don't know if those monsters are vampires, but they look very similar to the vampires in the movies." Half an hour later, Zuemo took the girl back to the hotel where they were staying. At the door, he happened to meet Hill, who had returned from outside. Seeing Hill's puzzled eyes fell on the girl behind him. "Go back to the room and talk," Zuemo explained, and then took the lead to walk upstairs. After returning to the room, Hill first took out a small instrument and tested the room to confirm that there was no eavesdropping equipment in the room, and then asked, "What is this?" Zuemo explained to Hill what happened before. "Where was your sister taken away by those monsters?" Hill turned his eyes to the girl. "It was in a bar called Ireland. It's the Irish bar in the eastern part of the town." The girl was stunned when she heard the words, and then nodded quickly. Hill saw Zuemo's puzzled eyes and explained, "I found some messages left by the previous agents on the street today. According to them, these people lost contact in this area. Wait, Zoo. Mo looked at Hill with a puzzled look. Don't you agents know how to send messages or make phone calls? Why do you use such a primitive way to transmit information? Hill spread his hands. I don't know much about it. The fact is that after those agents came here, they soon lost contact. Only one agent sent a message, which was the message about vampires. Chapter 24. The vampire appears. Irish bar located on a street in the eastern part of the town. The whole street is full of neon lights on both sides. Women dressed in revealing clothes sit under the neon lights, waiting for customers to come. From time to time, someone would ask about the price and then pull the women into the back room. As Zuemo walked, he looked at the scenery on both sides with interest. Why are you interested? Hill looked at him looking around and laughed. Is it possible that your shield can reimburse you if you are interested? For a moment, Hill was speechless, but she also knew that both sides were just joking. How could a billionaire with a net worth of hundreds of billions be interested in these ordinary goods? Soon, the two came to the door of the Irish bar. The bar looked a bit shabby from the outside, but it was a different world. After entering, the whole bar was underground. After entering the bar, there were quite a few people inside. What should we do next? Looking at the huge bar, there were hundreds of people walking around, and with the dim lights, there was no way to distinguish vampires from ordinary people. Hearing Zuemo's question, Hill was a little speechless for a while. You can't ask them one by one. Seeing the other party's expression, Zuemo sighed. Forget it, I'll do it. After saying that, Zuemo put his hand into his pocket, and when he came out, there was a spherical object in his hand. It was the ultraviolet grenade in the box before. Without the slightest hesitation, he pressed the button on the grenade and threw it into the air in the center of the bar. Close your eyes. After shouting at Hill, Zuemo turned his head and turned his back to the direction of the grenade. Hill was shocked when he saw Zuemo's action. In such a dim environment, let alone vampires, even ordinary people would be blind within half a month if they were hit by this. Wait, but when she said that, the grenade had already been thrown out by Zuemo. Seeing this, Hill did not hesitate to imitate Zuemo. Turn around and close your eyes. Bang. A not so violent explosion came from the direction of the grenade. Then a strong light shot out from the explosion site. Instantly, the entire dim bar was illuminated as bright as day. Our cries came from all directions. Kill the villain. Points plus 160. Kill the villain. Points plus 210. More than a dozen prompts appeared in Zuemo's mind. Killing vampires gets a lot of points. Zuemo's eyes lit up. Even in some cases, these vampires are easier to kill than ordinary people. But the points are several times those of ordinary humans. Hill opened his eyes and immediately saw that almost everyone in the bar fell to the ground, covering their eyes and screaming. Zuemo looked at Hill's gaze and shrugged. Do you have a better way? Although, but the scope of the accidental injury is too large. Hill said speechlessly. Don't worry, these people will recover soon, and they were accidentally injured in the counter-terrorism. Because of this, they can get a long paid vacation. If you calculate it, there is no loss. Maybe they will thank me for this. After saying that, Zuemo did not wait for the other party's answer, but rushed in one direction. Relying on telekinesis, the scene around him just now appeared clearly in his mind. In the explosion of the grenade, more than a dozen vampires hiding in the crowd turned into ashes. Only 2 vampires standing at the entrance of a corridor in the distance escaped because they dodged into the corridor in time. Despite this, they were also burned by ultraviolet rays at this time. With the help of a vampire who was not injured because he was in the corridor, he fled to the depths of the corridor after listening to Zuemo's explanation. Hill showed a trace of helplessness on his face. Then he shook his head and chased after the other person. In the corridor, 2 vampires with burned skin cried out in pain from time to time while running away. White smoke was sizzling from the burned skin. To recover from their injuries, they needed enough blood. Although the hall was full of living humans, they were not stupid. They were able to take out ultraviolet grenades, which were specifically designed for vampires, and were obviously targeting them. If they dared to enter the hall again, they would probably turn into ashes like their companions in the hall before they could suck blood to recover from their injuries. While running, the three also heard the sound of footsteps coming from behind. As the footsteps got closer and closer, at the end of the corridor, Zuemo's figure appeared. Looking at Zuemo, who appeared behind the three people almost instantly, the uninjured vampire pushed the other two out. "Go quickly, I'll stop him." After saying that, the woman turned her head and looked at Zuemo, opened her mouth to reveal two sharp teeth, and roared at him, "Come on, kid, I'm going to suck every drop of blood out of your body." After saying that, the woman rushed towards Zuemo. Just after he jumped in front of Zuemo, he gently waved his right hand a few times. "Ah!" the female vampire screamed. She fell in front of Zuemo, her arms and bent legs into an incredible shape. The fallen female vampire still stubbornly opened her mouth and roared at Zuemo. "If that's the case, you are very good at sucking." As Zuemo said this, the pistol filled with silver bullets appeared in his hand and directly stuffed it into the roaring mouth of the female vampire. Watching the other party's arm slowly returning to its normal shape, he directly pressed the trigger. Bang! After a gunshot, the female vampire turned into ashes and dissipated. Kill the villain. Points plus 180. Zuemo put away the pistol. "You are really good. My pistol can only last for 3 seconds. After dealing with the other party, he continued to chase the other two. Judging from the situation just now, his guess was not wrong. These vampires are indeed a group of weak chickens. Just now, I only used less than 1% of my strength, and the other party had no way to resist. The two injured vampires, after hearing the screams and gunshots from behind, the fear on their faces became even stronger at the same time. Footsteps sounded again in the corridor. This sound seemed to step on their hearts, making them almost breathless. After all, the vampire who just blocked the other party did not even last half a minute before being eliminated by the other party. If the two of them were added together, they would probably not be much stronger than the other party. In a panic, the two ignored the pain in their bodies and ran to the end of the corridor with all their strength and rushed into the elevator. Both hands frantically pressed the door closing button. Looking at the slowly closing elevator door, the two breathed a sigh of relief at the same time. Seeing that the last gap of the elevator door had disappeared, the elevator was about to start, and the door opening button on the side suddenly lit up. The closed elevator door reopened. What for? The two people's hearts that fell were lifted again. Hastily pressed the door closing button again. As the door gradually closed, the door opening button lit up again. Fuck. The two were on the verge of collapse. If I can escape, I must find the installer of this elevator and tear him into pieces. I'm afraid you don't have this chance. Zuemo appeared outside the elevator door like a ghost. Chapter 25 Trap. Zuemo stepped into the elevator. The desire to survive prompted the two vampires to muster up the courage to pounce. However, after a few punches, the two of them recognized the reality and became honest. Lifting a vampire from the ground. "Tell me where your lair is, you PFFT." Zuemo pulled out the long knife from the opponent's chest and saw that the opponent turned into ashes under his gaze. Then he lifted the other one up. I said, our base is underground in this bar." Before Zuemo could speak, the vampire hurriedly spoke. After a few regular presses on the elevator floor buttons, a hole opened under the buttons, and a button marking the second floor slipped out. Coincidentally, Hill also caught up from behind at this time. What the other person said fell into her ears. "I seem to be a little late." "No, you came just in time." After saying that, Zuemo inserted the knife in his hand into the vampire's chest. After pressing the new button that appears in the elevator, there was a strong feeling of weightlessness, and the elevator descended for half a minute. This also convinced the two of them that the so-called negative second floor was at least 100 meters away from the negative first floor. As the elevator door opened, there was a dark room outside. There are hundreds of figures standing in the hall, that is several hundred square meters in size. Among these people were several tied up girls. The girls' wrists were cut open. Streams of blood flowed from their wrists, as if there was a participation going on. The surrounding vampires took turns approaching. Several girls had died due to excessive blood loss. Hill stared at the scene in front of her that made her visibly uncomfortable. Surprisingly, perhaps because this place was too secretive, these people were unprepared and indifferent to the arrival of the two. It wasn't until half a minute later that the two vampires near the elevator noticed the two people walking out of the elevator. After seeing the appearance of the two people, the eyes of the two vampires, a man and a woman, lit up at the same time. Then he rushed towards the two of them. Seeing this scene, Hill finally couldn't help it. He took out his pistol from his pocket and killed the two vampires with two casual shots. Huge gunfire echoed in the underground space. All the vampires in the hall paused and turned to look in the direction of the two of them. Looking at Agent Hill holding a gun, these vampires immediately reacted. He roared angrily and rushed towards this side. Zuemo, who was shocked by this big scene, also reacted. Block Hill behind you. Zuemo looked at the figures rushing over one after another, howling in anger. A bunch of damn scum. This dark behavior of yours must be exposed. As he spoke, a rough grenade appeared in his hand and he threw it casually. After a while, dazzling light filled the entire space. Exposure plus 1000. Almost instantly, these vampires are burned to ashes by the light. When the light disappeared, almost all the vampires in the entire space disappeared. Only a few who reacted quickly and hid behind the support pillars survived. Hill let out a sigh of relief. After this mission is over, I think I need some psychological treatment. Maybe you need to vent more. After speaking, Zuemo handed the silver knife to the other party. Hill reached out and took it. He rushed directly towards the surviving vampires. Although these vampires survived, the bright light in the room still burned their skin. At this time, they were in Hill's hands and had almost no power to resist. In less than 5 minutes, all these vampires were reduced to ashes. Zuemo took the lead and walked towards the passage across the hall. Walk along the passage to the end and there is another elevator. The protection here is quite tight. When there were no survivors this time, Zuemo took out his sword made of adamantium alloy and chopped the elevator door to pieces with 3 or 2 strokes. You wait here, I'll go down and check the situation first. After saying that, Zuemo jumped up and jumped directly from the dark elevator shaft. Landing gently on the top of the elevator, Zuemo made a hole under his feet and fell into the elevator. After exiting the elevator, there is a corridor less than 10 meters long. At the end of the corridor is a metal gate. Just as he walked to the door opened slowly and automatically, revealing the scene behind the door. In a dark hall, there were a circle of pale vampires sitting around them. On the altar in the middle of these vampires, a girl of 17 or 18 years old was tied up. The girl's appearance is exactly the same as that of the girl who was rescued from the castle before. Zuemo instantly guessed that this should be the girl's sister. Judging from the circle of vampires sitting around, they seemed to be performing some kind of ritual. There was no hesitation. Zuemo changed his hand to the special pistol, raised the muzzle, and fired in bursts. Although I don't know what the other party is doing as an enemy, as long as the other party wants to do something, I just need to stop the other party without thinking, and it must be right. But obviously, these vampires should have a certain status in the vampire community. Their strength is not comparable to those vampires outside. After a flexible jump, they dodged the silver bullets shot at them. Then the group of vampires showed their sharp teeth and rushed towards Zuemo. Zuemo was unmoved. He stretched out his right hand and gently drew it in the air. The bullets dodged by the vampires drew an arc, turned around, and shot back in their direction. And the speed was at least twice as fast as before. The unprepared vampires were instantly pierced by the bullets and turned into ashes. Zuemo was about to step onto the platform, but his eyes paused and stopped. A flying knife flew out of his hand and cut the rope on the girl. Then the girl left the platform under the drag of her clothes. The unconscious girl also woke up after this tossing. She looked at Zuemo who was holding her in confusion. Who are you? Seeing that the other party seemed to be fine, Zuemo put him down. I was entrusted by your sister to save you. After hearing this, the girl showed a puzzled look on her face. Sister, I am the only daughter of my parents. Where does my sister come from? Hearing this, Zuemo was stunned, and then his face changed. Oh no, he picked up the other party, and was about to fly outside point, but it was still a little too late point. The surrounding walls were instantly wrapped in a black energy point. A woman who looked like the girl next to him slowly landed from the air. It's too late to leave now. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.